Should we do the intro?
There are some things that are well behind the studio before we go live that never makes it to the show.
Certain challenge you increases your eye color. I was gonna do the Hockey Night in Canada intro, like the coach's corner, because like I don't know, I'm kind of like Don Cherry, and you're kind of like, well, I don't know, I shouldn't say that because Ron McLean stabbed him in the back, so I shouldn't say that I'm like Don Cherry.
I have no desire to stab you in the back, Gio, but I also know nothing about Canadian hockey coaches.
This is right wing corner, right wing Twitter court and on corner with the Digital Archipelago.
Oh yeah, it's right wing and on corner with two face lords.
Don't interrupt me now. Now, Howling Mutant made a great play this week, right on down the ice, going against the irony left. And see, it's almost like Coach's Corner. Oh boy, we're gonna talk a little bit about Howling Mutant, their good friend. But hello everyone, this is the Digital Archipelago, right wing Twitter night in Canada. No, I'm kidding. Only one of us.
Night Owls for YouTube.
Did you know our Royal Navy has embraced the tradition of the Navy this month? Did you see that tweet, Prude?
No, I did not.
Canadian Royal Navy. It's flying the Imperial flag. It's flying the Imperial flag. They have a photo of it. They're really proud of it. And they said that, Navy's Navy cruise ships always flew flags to represent different things. And they're representing the Imperial flag of the Empire this month. Canada is doing better to represent the Empire than even America. Did you know that, Prude?
I'm glad that they're at least broadcasting their return to the old Royal Navy tradition of rum and sodomy.
Rum
and buggery made the Royal Navy go round. And I'm glad that the colonial descendants of the Crown are still continuing that tradition in the Great White North.
Oh boy. But I was saying that like Fishy Frenzy had this great tweet that I couldn't retweet because of a certain symbol in the forehead of the Zoomer Giga chat.
Oh, the Hindu symbol of peace.
Hindu symbol, yeah. But it said like coming out to my parents on Pride Month as in incel too. So I thought that was a great tweet. Maybe I might steal it, but Fishy Frenzy is a good friend of ours. He's a resident Amarnite. And we have a lot of good people in the chat. Vingal. I haven't seen Vingal in a while. Maybe because like Thursday's not his day.
Yeah, Thursdays is when we're also competing with our good friends from Scandinavia, the Longhouse. So
that's right.
It's nice to see the walrus in a suit and everyone up here. So it's definitely a good time to. It's everyone's on board with maybe replacing something with a different character this month. I like Fishy Frenzy's idea that we have Prude Month in June. It'll be great. We have frogs everywhere throughout the month of June.
Oh man! Oh, we got King Salmonfish. We got we got a lot of regulars. Introspection. We got Spasticus Autisticus, A Walrus, Dean Guts Corso, my good friend Mike. Oh my God, Mike Hawkins, DJ KY Marrow, Mike Hawkins. Oh, I love that name. And he puts
That's great. I love it.
We never get into that article, man. Why did Vingal leave the Telegram, the Beaver group? Why did he leave the Kaliev, John Carter, No Name?
I'm driving my mower to the dealer
Ninja
for warranty work. All right, well, drive that mower. Embrace the 30-year-old boomer meme. We see all these should come out as a Gio cell to parents. Gio. But seeing all of these walruses and animals in there, it's clearly a right wing group as we laugh at dick jokes and talk about Twitter. Dangerously right wing.
Spasticus Autisticus apparently skipped out on a date to watch this, so this better be a good episode.
Is this where we need to plug the I paused my Digital Archipelago, this better be good shirt?
Yeah, we should. Oh my God, bro, you could have just watched the episode with your date. She would appreciate that, George Jonas see, we have this hardcore old school Leaf. I used to read George Jonas in the National Post. Fans hang. We got Cyber Ninja Zero as always. But anyways, so we wanted to cover a bit of the news before we get into this this film criticism article from a feminist deconstructionist lens, and of course, A Place Beyond the Pines. But I noticed that there's been a lot of there we got Louis Cachet. I always think of Varg's wife when I see Louis Cachet. You know, because
is it because of the profile picture?
Well, no, but also that's his the last name of his wife, Cachet. Her name is Marie Cachet, or I forget her name, but she has her own YouTube channel that she talks about some kind of like bear symbolism, paganism. That's exactly. Yeah, that's Vargas. His French name is Louis Cachet. There you go. Marie Cachet. I was right. There you go. Please donate if you want to see this Kino and Nectar. I don't see any super chats. Maybe Spasticus could take
We're
the
10
money.
minutes. We're less than 10 minutes in. Way to go.
Yeah. So we got Peter Young, we got Ziz Hunter or Z's Hunter, Big Bingo. We got all the regulars today. This is right wing Twitter in Canada night, so
it sure is. I do have to admit though, the meme review that the Walrus and them had the other day was quite entertaining. That should be a regular staple for them.
That was pretty good. Alt-right Vanger. You got alt-right Vang, but it's like right as in like writing. So kind of like New Right podcast.
Mr. Wegner's a pretty good writer.
There you go.
Good guy, and he's followed the show quite regularly. He was on Millennial this last year, so
I think I saw his Millennial. Maybe I should have him on the show. What's he write about a lot?
A mix of history, foreign policy, and culture.
There you go.
A lot of German stuff as well. He's a good guy.
Maybe we'll have a foreign policy. Well, I don't know, because it's weird because like you do your stuff on foreign affairs, but like I said to the boys at War Report, like when they actually, allegedly do this counteroffensive this month, I'll go back on the show. But like last week I was on War Report and it was a pretty good episode. But I have one super chat by Spasticus Autisticus for $1. He just sends a super chat. So we'll cover that later.
Although I do have to appreciate, given that it is the month of June, the Germans that are doing their national flag in sort of the like Pride bar style thing as a way to sort of say that they're
I saw that.
This Stolzmanot crap. I'm quite a fan. I applaud that's what they're doing. I'm quite a fan.
Nice. But so all of our socials are in the bottom, all of our show links, from Subscribestar to my Patreon. And like I've said, Patreon is to also support Patreon Subscribestar is to support me and Prude during our writing endeavors as well. And I have been lacking in the content mind and the genre reviews, but I've been really busy, especially this month. I'm like 100 pages into my book. But if I combine my older essays that never got published that I want to rework, probably 100 pages I have so far. So we got Lou Templar, our good friend as always. Seawalk Dev.
To answer Seawalk Dev's question, Entropy's sort of been a bitch right now, in part because I haven't paid anyone since March. So we would say Entropy, or I would use Entropy, but since that hasn't happened since March, I don't advocate for it. We both have Buy Me a Coffee as a way to offer a tip or things like that. We will read those live on air, and then PayPal for Gio.
Yeah, I have PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee, but PayPal, I believe I get notifications on both. But PayPal probably is your best bet if you want to give directly. So anyways, in the news recently, let's mention our good friend, to keep with the Coach's Corner theme, known incel leader, Giovanni Pinochet. Oh boy. So it's funny though, that could be true one day. Knock on wood, probably not. Known incel leader. But recently, our good friend Howling Mutant, probably the funniest guy on Twitter, I would say, got into it with the Arnie left. That was pretty funny. And
You there,
the
buddy?
guy he got into it with, he used to go by Catholic Dad, and I hate this guy. He's one of the most wretched creatures. He went after me when Campbot sicked all those Army leftists after me. But Howling Mute, but the reason I bring it up is to I guess create a higher level point apart from like it's funny how the Arnie leftoids are like triggered because when you call them out as like this weirdo brand of like millennial nostalgia, hip hop culture, like trash media, like the eclecticism of like something awful culture that the irony left came from, and like weird Twitter. It is funny when you call them out how they like react instinctively to like this. You're not funny, right? You're not funny, but but cold pockets or whatever, or like a carrot or whatever. It's funny though, like that absurdist, like wow, so random millennial humor is quite something. But what did you think of that, Prue? What did you think of that?
I find Howling Mutant entertaining, and I don't know. Again, this is why I rely on you for old Twitter lore because you're much more of an old head than I am. It was entertaining to say the least to watch. Like any sort of irony leftist account will always break down when someone just sells them no. It doesn't matter what kind of posting that they're into, whether it's the sort of millennial self-deprecating humor or the ironic, observational comedy about how bad things are going from that like niche leftist stance that tells you that's actually all those like, right winger, positions. And it's just frustrating on that end because like all of a sudden, all it takes is some deranged schizoid, which is Howling Mutant. My favorite interaction with Howling Mutant is between him and Thomas 777. But
that was the best. Yeah.
You gynecologically obsessed freak. But it's always good when you can tell someone that you're not funny, that you're not interesting, and watch them as they sort of like disintegrate right in front of you. But call him a Democrat and he recoils. Oh no, I've been found out. I mean, that's basically what Brooklyn Dad was before the DNC started paying him. He was one of those sort of like irony posters, just a washed up kind of guy that wanted to complain about how bad things were within his own city. And then he got paid by the DNC, and like iHypocrite called his ass out during the last election cycle. It was like, you made $68,000 in 9 months to tweet about Trump 24/7. And I'm pretty sure he's still on the take, or he's like managed to turn it into his own grift because that's what happens. And so here you are. Although I think the DNC has like updated its models because now it's got like Harry Sisson and all of these like weird white twinks that are like doing TikToks about gun control. And you can't help but think to yourself, like, out of all the issues that are safe for like white Democrats to campaign on, it's gun control. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else they're not allowed to speak about. They're not allowed to talk about, because otherwise, right, they're advocating in their own like weird TikTok gesticulations and their Disney animated eyes, because like that's how just reprogrammed they are. They would be advocating for their own destruction if they were talking about any other democratic policies, but like why the border is safe, why like being easy on crime is a good thing, and like why we're tackling systemic white supremacy, when, if it's like Harry Sisson doing it with his weird, like in me mum's car style gesticulations, then, it would sound like this man is in a death cult. So we have to talk about gun control instead.
Yeah.
Whereas Brooklyn Dad Defiant is just like absolute trash. And this guy is interacted with probably the one person that you can't survive engagement with.
Lowest grade Cole. But it's funny because like that observational, like millennial humor that comes from like The Office and from like, what's that other show? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Is that another?
It's Always Sunny, Parks and Rec, and The Office are like the three shows that constantly get referenced.
Yeah. And it's like that one guy that filmed the guys from Boston. Was it Boston? In like the Irish bar where they called him an F-slur. He like got popular in TikTok for that, but he was the one that said like Howling Mutant. Like after Catholic Dad, he's like, "You're unfunny. You're not funny. I've never heard about this guy. People know me in everyday life when I walk down the street." And it's like, wow, I've never heard of you apart from this one video where like these three Irish American guys are like calling him a fat F slur. But anyways, so one day we will talk about neoliberal catch as my book.
When the book comes out, we will do an entire episode on it.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I'll have to do the podcast circuit. Hopefully some of the bigger people does the
Yeah,
job.
it's about your time to go back on Kashudo, so why not?
There you go. Yeah. Maybe even AA can do me a solid. No, that'll never happen. Well, maybe if I came over,
lore, you could.
I could actually, yeah. But anyways, another thing I noticed is like did you see the TikTok of like women, like it's been going around the tweet about like what their ideal boyfriend is, and my good friend 4 Hour Life, my mutual on Twitter, he said like every guy that like every like I want a GF post, it's like my ideal GF is like she loves me, she tolerates me, but like every woman that does the ideal BF, it's always like he makes a lot of money, like the 666 rule.
Yeah, basically that, right? Like he has to make like 6 figures. It's got to be 6 feet. He's got to be able to take care of me and all, and which is basically like what a walrus says here in chat. Like, wow, I can't believe I found another girl who likes dogs in the office too. It's the average Quan tweet from Bronze Age Pervert. And it's whereas, yeah, you're absolutely right.
For explosion.
The dichotomy for men is just like someone who is preferably not fat and likes me back. It's that screwed.
And I'm even bullish on the fat part too. So
yes, you are. You've got that Pierce Brosnan streak in you.
It's Fat B Word Friday today. So there you go.
That's probably my favorite tweet of all time that I've ever done. Quote tweeting that Steven Pinker bit about a homeless man with a sign that says, "I need a fat, you know what?" And,
man,
I think about that too and how I need one. So yeah, I'm in solidarity with Gio in this instance. Yeah. I'm bullish on the BMI.
Bullish on the BMI. Oh man. Yeah, the one that's like have a PhD in architecture, but anyways, it is quite funny how people like how the sort of the needs of the average person, like especially the average woman, has been obscured, where I think like we were talking about this in the chat because Hanani, the gargoyle, came up with this tweet about South Korea. And like, first of all, like South Korea isn't like a model of like a trad society the way he makes it, but he was talking about the total fertility rate and how he's like, trads can't explain this because they don't have like, they're not fat, they don't have tattoos, they don't have marriage out of wedlock. I believe they
don't have any LGBT laws either.
Well, they will now.
And he's like, explain this, trads, and it's just like these people work 70-hour work weeks. There has been a deliberate rebellion in the culture, and this is primarily driven, I think, by the fact that both men and women work, that women are basically opting for like their own sort of femcel voluntary extinction thing in quote to sexism, whereas men who are primarily biologically driven to like provide, have babies, and get women can't do that for financial reasons because they're competing with their own women. They work like 80 hours a week. The suicide rate inside of South Korea is one of the highest in the modern world. Not to mention their culture has like these effeminate K-pop thing, which is a horrible recruitment strategy. It is. And this is the only time I'll recommend a Black Pigeon Speaks video because he had a interesting theory on it that I think is kind of backed up by some interesting characters in the U.S. State Department. But like all their frameworks for like tradition has been utterly wiped out by this foreign like capitalism. And I am just gonna say it, like their form of capitalism is turbo, like cranked up to 11 them in Japan. It's insane. We get a 40-hour work week, we get weekends, and we have holidays and things like that. We have labor laws. For them, it's just like you work 70 to 80 hours a week, and that's what you get. And so yeah, like you have like what was called like the incel revolution with one of their presidential elections a while back. And so it's absolutely
they elected a living Chudjak.
Yeah, they did. And so it's a disaster. But yeah, blame the trads. Blame the trads.
Yeah.
Richard Hanania makes right-wing I don't even want to say right-wing. He just makes objectively true statements backed up by data, facts, statistics that right-wingers pick up on. And Richard Hanania hates the fact that these low-status, white flyover right-wing Americans like pick up on it and believe it. And then all of a sudden, he has to denigrate those people. Like, see trads, see what your actions have consequences, because he hates the fact that the people read him and cite him the most are people like the Good Old Boys or Orrin McIntyre and Dave the Distributists.
Yeah, but there's this trend though, I feel like that's older in like the rationalist circles from like the less wrong days. Like, who was that professor that got the one that Alex Kashuta really likes, but he's like a libertarian that got nailed for stating the obvious about like sexual relations in human history, particularly around
Is the age gap guy, that professor that got in
well,
trouble
the
for
age gap
about-
guy, but also about the RP word I can't say on YouTube.
Oh,
Hansen.
Robin Hansen?
Robin Hansen, yeah, he
got in trouble
drilled
for that?
Yeah. I mean, it's an obvious fact that like most genetic lineages in human history, probably along the lines,
Have been
have
propagated
been a product
by
of forced fun. Let's call it that. Forced
unwanted encounters.
Unwanted encounters. There you go. That's an OPSEC friendly term. He got like ratioed into oblivion for that one. But it's funny how like a lot of these like libertarian tech bro like rationalists, they like know about HBD and they know about like more rightist talking points. It's just that they have to like prevent themselves from like stating, and there will be people like Hanania is like a further progression in that he will state these things, but then he'll try to cover it by saying like, I hate right wingers, I hate trads, I hate this, I hate that. If I recall, like, doesn't even Hanania like counter signal racism as well?
Oh yeah, he kind of has to.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's the nature of his shtick, is that he has to. It doesn't matter that he and Steve Saylor will kind of come to the similar conclusions. Richard Hanania looks at like people like you and I, and he looks at us with this bizarre sense of like enlightened man walking through a human zoo, and we're the decrepit third worlders that have been imported to be in the zoo. And I say this because like that Rob Henderson character follows me. And I know why he does it, because he did a recent podcast with Richard Hanania. So you have this like Asian gentleman with a military background who looks like a well-performing, contributing member to society. And then you have this like grotesque creature, for lack of a better term. And they're just talking. And he talks about in the podcast, and I caught snippets of it, where they're like examining like right-wing internet ecosystems. And I'm like, that's why you follow me, because you follow me for like studying interactions and shit. Not that I mind being, well, I do mind being a zoo figure in this instance, but it's just like, it's interesting that these people who talk about like, high status, interests in how societies operate and run, and they'll cite like, medieval European literature. And at the same time, what are they all doing? They're all studying these like, autists that are on the internet doing podcasts and shit posting and ratioing the Department of Defense and the Department of Education. And that's where we're at. It's a bizarre thing to think about in that respect. And then, speaking of ratios, has everyone had a good time shitting on Ted Cruz?
Oh God.
Remember kids, it does not matter if South Africa has racial quotas for who gets access to water, that thing you need to live with. But sub-Saharan sodomy, that's the hill we're going to die on for Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. That's where we're at.
It's funny though, because one of the greatest takes I ever saw, and I even said to him, like, I miss him, man. Like, I missed when he was gone, but our good friend Kashiwagi, he used to do these short threads in the vein of Logo, but unlike Logo, he actually has a brilliant intellect.
He actually reads the books that he's citing.
yeah, he doesn't like create false divisions between things just to like harp on people when they don't agree with those false divisions. But Kashiwagi, I even said this to him in this thread, like, I'm glad that you're back, man. I really missed this. He had this thread about the Ted Cruz tweet. And so I always cite my sources. Unlike certain people, I always love citing my sources. So Kashiwagi had this thread that really explained it. He said the reason that these Republicans do it, and Prude, you know it more, obviously, because you've worked in like the apparatus.
I phone banked for that stupid. Anyway, yeah, back in 2018.
Oh, did you work for Ted Cruz?
I worked on his election campaign.
Oh, why would you? Oh,
because my option was this.
Admitting this.
Because my options were this guy or the drunkard skateboarder outside of Whataburger, Beto O'Rourke. And having had O'Rourke as my congressman and his shitty voting record, I was like, well, I have two shitty choices. I'm going to work and make some money and connections with the fat bastard versus the drunkard skateboarder. Those were my options.
God!
I phone banked and did some campaign and canvassing.
Do you think
for Ted
do you think
Cruz.
Beto has ever smoked out of an apple bong?
Oh yes,
Probably. Like behind a water.
Everyone has to understand that like Robert Francis O'Rourke descends from like an Irish business, like Scott's Irish businessman who moved to El Paso, married into he's very wealthy,
he's a rich kid, right?
He's a rich kid, and he's also he's kind of like failing upwards. So he's like all leftist fail sons, where he just fails
a nepo
upward.
kid.
You drive to El Paso, there are municipal buildings named after his father. He's on city council.
Really?
He made close connections with other people. Ran for Congress in 2012, ousting Sylvester Reyes in the 2012 primary. Won election and consistently won re-election until opting to run for president. Running for senator and then president. And
that was both disastrous.
Well, he got dangerously close.
Yeah.
At least with the Senate race. And then in 2020, he decided to embrace every Tumblr gun control position imaginable. Yeah, millennial John Kerry is Kate
the White Obama. Yeah. Remember people called him?
No, White Obama is Pete Buttigieg, because he would literally quote and try and imitate Obama word for word. And I like to think that Pete Buttigieg is just the same person. Like he's just a clone. Where they're like, okay, we're gonna retry and remake Obama, the Democratic machine. We're gonna take the melanin out of him. We're gonna keep the homosexual affectations, and we're gonna keep the same speech patterns. And maybe this will work this time. We can have a white Obama. And it turns out white gay Obama does not work well with black primary voters in South Carolina, so they can't make it work. And that's that's the nature of how it is.
People don't realize that, but if I recall, there was even problems in the beginning of 2007. Of even like African Americans voting for Obama, because they had that moment where he's a child of privilege and white step parents, and there was like they had to like sell his authenticity. People don't remember this because 2008 was like the emphatic like worship of hope and change Obama, like the first like political kitsch
Our
president,
first Nation of Islam candidate.
Yeah, but people, you remember, like you probably remember a little bit of this. They were struggling.
I lived overseas during the 2008 campaign, so the only like understanding I had of like him was just like every black kid in our school just being like, "Yep, it's time to overthrow the good old boy system," and it was just like a weird encounter with like racial politics where you're just like, "Huh, these people don't like me." It was a nice thing to get exposed to when you're like 12 years old.
It's like, yeah, America didn't experience that racial politics since like the early 90s, and people forgot. And
well, it was like, well, we're gonna have it without the Rodney King riots. I mean, that was just the case that it is.
Yeah, but what was I gonna say about like I didn't know that about Beto. He was a child of. I mean, obviously, he probably is a child of privilege.
He's white.
His family, yeah, of course.
He's like one of the rich white families inside of El Paso, Texas. Like, yeah, let's not.
Was his family one of the original Texas families too?
I don't know. I don't think so. I just know that his family has had a long-standing political and financial presence in the city for some time.
Yeah. But no, my point about Ted Cruz though is so Kashawagi did this thread where he said that the reason they do this is because Republicans have failed so hard in terms of domestic culture war issues that they have to like externalize their love of like foreign policy initiatives where they actually can like grandstand morally the way that like domestic like Democrats can like grandstand over, social issues, right? They have this like same moral fervor of like foreign policy issues, but that have like a marker of culture war to them. Whether it's like gay marriage in Uganda, or it's like punishing, the Palestinians in that one nation in the Middle East, they like externalize their bloodlust because they can't like go up to like domestic, like in their culture war in America at home. They can't they don't have power enough to like go up to Democrats and tell them off and say you're supporting like culturally and civilizationally destructive, social policies. They don't have that backing. So they have to like externalize it to be like, actually we're the ones who are morally right in this case. And it's like this very weird LARP that that's why Republicans love like geopolitics, because they love extending the empire. And I do think the whole Republican grandstanding of people like McConnell and Lindsey Graham like Lindsey Graham legit said, he's like, yeah, I love the fact that we're like producing more dead Russian soldiers. He's like, he legit said that. So it's like, it's this, we were too weak to like really fight the Cold War, like the way that the 50s.
Remember, kids, the best Bantu maxing president of the United States of America is Republican George W. Bush.
Yeah, exactly. What's going on in the background there, Prude?
Oh, that may have been my chair.
No, I hear these noises.
Oh, that may be my fan. I may have to turn it off.
Oh, I thought it was like a lawnmower or something going by.
No. That would just be my fan at high speed.
Oh, there you go. But
it's anyways, like 90 degrees, Gio.
Oh, yeah. But no, but anyways, yeah. So like, it's a very funny analysis of the fact that like Republicans have to grant, like, for example, they're like relitigating the Cold War as we speak by like doing these like grand, like normie sadist displays. Like even Mersheimer, I was watching this interview he did a few days ago where he talked about that, like how they can't they can't let it go. But I wonder, like Ted Cruz, like why is he doing this? He knows his constituents, especially now at the height of the culture war being fought over schools and like drag time story hour. Why is he doing this? Like this whole move of like, actually the L and the G, they're like the real like trad return to tradition. We have to like the T's are the real crazy ones. It's this like National Review, like let's put a break on like global liberalism. It's like never gonna work.
It's the desire to put the woke away. And I think the important part about when we talk about like putting the woke away is that you can watch as the Major League Baseball and you can watch as other companies quietly withdraw and take away the pride flag profile pictures. But that won't, like, that's not putting the woke away. That's putting the mask down. The mask is still, like, we're not going to be overly performative in your face. What's actually going to happen is going to be the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the legal superstructure still exists.
Yeah. Well, you were saying this point about James Lindsay, about that one lawyer with like the 5 chin, that on Twitter he responded to Elon saying that what did he say? He's like, actually misgendering someone is like against the law due to the Civil Rights Act, blah blah blah. I don't know, you fill in the gaps, Prude.
Oh yeah, so this is in response to Elon Musk talking. So what happened is that Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire, they wanted to take advantage of the Twitter Blue feature, and they were going to put on the What is a Woman documentary on Twitter, and it had gotten suppressed for whatever reasons due to pronoun issues or whatever. I don't know the full story.
Elon fired the woman that took it away.
Well, good for them. One less woman in the workforce is a good thing, regardless of your opinion. Where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? But anyways, so on top of that, Elon Musk said, listen, I use their pronouns, their preferred pronouns, and things like that. But, I at the end of the day, right, doing so isn't most rude and certainly breaks no laws. And so this guy named Joshua Ehrlich, which you can look him up. He's got more fat around his. It makes him look like he looks like a guy with mumps. And it makes me severely concerned for him. But he says, for your information, it is absolutely illegal if it creates a hostile work environment or otherwise violates civil rights laws. To which there have been multiple people quoting this tweet and illustrating that, yes, actually, he's not wrong, because Bostock versus Clayton County in 2020 ruled that discrimination against an individual because of their transgender status is a form of sex discrimination prohibited by Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and the idea of workplace harassment is covered under the Civil Rights Act of 1991. So James Lindsay needs to just shut the hell up for the rest of his life anytime that he gets mad about the Hanania or Christopher Caldwell Civil Rights Constitution, because that's what we live under. That's what we've got. This is it, right? That's it. Real world harm, stochastic terrorism. No, it all boils down to my civil rights fees got hurt. Your idea of the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, that Bill of Rights shit does not matter. It's been thrown out into the dumpster fire, because even if we were to take out the fire, it's still a bunch of burnt trash. And that burnt trash that we're being ruled by is the Civil Rights Act of 64, 91 and numerous decades of jurisprudence that covers it. And so that's the case.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just James Lindsay should just shut the fuck up forever.
But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like, well, see, this is a good balance because, like, this is like I'm not well versed in this, the sort of litigious side of it. But what would it take to sort of undo the damage of the Civil Rights Act in America, apart from like a Caesar?
Answers in which I cannot say without getting a knock on the door. No, I mean,
realistically, like to repeal it would be impossible, right?
I don't know how. Well, you'd have to find a case, and this is the thing: you would have to find injury that would be brought before a court of law, and that you would have to somehow work your way up and pose a constitutional question before the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, it looks like, in the time being, based on the feelers and the insiders, that we're supposed to get rid of affirmative action soon based on the Supreme Court. But I mean, at the same time, right, as Mellon said, they also said repealing Roe v. Wade was impossible as well. So I don't know. I don't know. And yes, Jay, that's if you just tuned in and you heard that, welcome to the show. We're glad that you're here. But
Sneed super chats.
It's sneed away. Yeah, I mean, Clarence Thomas writes the 1-0 decision, but that's the problem, is if it's a 1-0 decision, it's not precedent. You have to have a 5 opinion majority, because there are cases where like multiple people are on different opinions, and they'll have plural opinions, but they're not the majority opinion. You do need a majority one. Legality is fine, but like it's as long as it's still also within the hearts of men and women, it's also going to be an issue, right?
Exactly.
Because, I mean, anyone who's been through American public education, myself included, will tell you that like what are the big things that get covered, like the Civil War, the Civil Rights Act, World War II, and that's kind of more or less it. You would need to, again, like, and this is why I sometimes question like the power structure bit about some of the things that Yarvin says, because he's like, if you take over and you win, those pod people, they're your pod people now. And I'm like,
they're your pod people now.
But they're not, because Trump took over the White House in 2016, and what happened between him and his inauguration were all these alternative departments of education, alternative departments of interior. It's
I was gonna get to that. Yeah, go ahead, Prudy. Yeah.
You can't, like, that's the thing. You have to destroy that. You would have to be able to fire these people writ large, which is why I am happy with the idea that from Trump's camp about Schedule F, that would just say, like, you have to fire all these people and have as a bloodless possible regime change as possible, where you just get rid of the entire, civil service and replace them with your own people. But that's not, it's physical, it's legally and physical. Well, I don't think it's physically possible. You should do it anyway and let them enforce their own laws. But no one's had the guts so far to do that so far on the right. So yeah, it's just it's a disaster. I mean, if you got rid of the legal superstructure, great. What happens next is, if not outright rioting and outright racial conflict in major metropolitan areas, then I don't know what happens there, because colleges would still institute their own form of it, and they would probably advertise themselves as education centers for higher learning that still adhere to these progressive values.
Yeah.
So I always, this is the thing, is I haven't given it enough thought, but my chief concern, it's the same question I've asked people like Jeremy Carl, and I've had discussions with others, where it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's like that. It's like the after the credits scene of Finding Nemo, where the rest of the fish escape the dentist's office. Their elaborate, crazy plan about getting into little baggies, rolling out the window, surviving the car, across the street, and getting into the ocean, and they're free. And they get into the ocean, and then they're all still trapped in their little plastic baggies filled with water. And then exactly, Javier Oliva, he asks, now what? And I don't think anyone's asked that question, right? I don't think anyone's asked it yet, or has looked into it. I could be wrong, and I need to find those people. But yeah, it's yeah, that's right. We reference Finding Nemo on this podcast. You're absolutely right. Welcome to episode 45 of the Digital Archipelago.
But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like the Republicans, they have like a vastly, like, and Mulbug does this too, like it's a vastly simplified notion of how power operates in America. Because on the federal level, if you were to strike down a significant chunk of the Civil Rights Act, you would still have a lot of these state like activist legislatures and school boards and elsewhere that they, all these like legal fair type of people that are willing, like these army of like, libtarded lawyers that are like willing to like do the bidding of the Democrat Party. Like that's what the political left is good at. They're very good at like stalking all of these apparatuses, these decentralized organs of the institutions with people that are like, basically bio-Leninist soldiers that are like willing to go and do the bidding for this higher purpose. And it's very like, there was a video going around recently of like this Muslim woman. I mean, she's probably not even a real Muslim. She's probably like an atheist, but she's like about like, I'm a lawyer and it's about racial justice and all this like, justice isn't blind, even though that's probably like the first thing they teach you in law school is that justice is blind. Like that's a total farce, right? But it's very funny because I had this thread that I deleted because I don't know, I'm paranoid recently, about like, actually when you want to talk about assimilation, she's, to quote the boomer cons, she's probably more American than most Americans, because it's like if you go by America being like the current monoculture that is enforced, then it's like, yeah, it's like that's some activist like judge or lawyer that comes from wherever. It's like, yeah, there you go. Like, so that's what I mean. Like it's very like simple to say that Republicans can control the Supreme Court or they can like control the Senate or whatever. They could like pass legislation, but there's like a whole army of people in places that historically haven't gone to the right wing or to conservatives. And it's like, what are you going to do about that unless you're willing to have like a form of Caesarism, which I mean maybe inevitably, Spengler is correct that all civilizations in their democratic phase in the winter they will inevitably pull towards Caesarism. But even still, like maybe I don't want to black pill, but Scott Greer, to his credit, he did pose that question that we've talked about before, like what like maybe Caesar would come from the left, it would be a Stalin-esque figure, but who knows? I mean, that's probably too black pilling. I don't know.
Lord only knows.
But yeah, like the whole like
usually
Republicans
skeptical on that stuff, anyways.
Yeah.
Reality's not it's both a big black pill, but it's also a very good red pill for people that adventures of the man who just started paying attention. But the more you start paying attention, the more black pill kind of becomes. But 40 minutes in and there's no Ryan Gosling Kino. Well, just like 40 minutes in, there's no more Ryan Gosling in the movie. So there's
you go.
There's your Kino for you. I guess there's your transition.
Should we talk about the movie first or the?
Yeah, let's do that. People deserve the.
All right.
The Kino first.
Oh, Gavin Newsom tweets. They've been.
Gavin Newsom will probably run.
Oh boy,
he'll probably run.
Oh, I can't wait for what the digital archipelago is going to look like next year.
I'm excited for the next several months. Like I know, like here's the thing. I said this like you should follow me on Telegram for more spicier non-Twitter takes. But like I was watching earlier today the Raheem Kassem versus Pedro Gonzalez, and all I could think about was the YouTube video two artards fighting. And that's going to be the theme for all of the 2024 primary. And I'm not taking a part in it, and I'm just going to let them fight, but it is certainly entertaining. Not my cup of tea. We'll probably cover some of it, I imagine.
Yeah. Let them fight.
Let them fight. I have no desire to get into it. But what we will get into is the place beyond the pines. And I thought we were not going to be talking about this today.
Man, Josie streaming with Letty?
Oh, Lord.
I have to see that one. But anyways, Simpsons monkey fight. So Place Beyond the Pines. I really liked it. I think that it's one of the few examples of in sort of like and plus like very, very similar vibe as well to a lot of like more semi-rural places in Canada, because it was filmed in upstate New York, if I recall. Or that's the location of the film, right?
Yeah, it's in Schenectady, New York.
Yeah. So I think it's one of the few generational sort of like the sins of the father visit the son. It's one of the few like generational pieces that speaks to a lot of albeit more of like more of an embellished version of like a lot of very common stories nowadays. But I mean, let's try to like analyze it without going into like YouTube video essayist direction. But
Oh, I don't on it. So like I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but like when the 2 weeks to slow to flatten the curve, slow the spread stuff started, I had just purchased all of the stuff I needed to put together the PC that I'm currently streaming from. And I thought to myself, I can do this stuff. I could write essays about video games and movies, and then I have all these like half-finished scripts about that stuff.
yeah.
And then I got into politics, and I made the wrong financial decision. But neither here nor I liked this movie a lot, and I get upset because it's one of the few movies where Bradley Cooper's like actually good in his acting. Because I permanently associate with him, and maybe this is just the state of my brain and how I grew up, but like I permanently associate him with the Hangover movies and like American Sniper. And I don't think of him as an actor capable of range, direction, emotion, or anything like that. And I feel bad because it's just like I'm sure he's good in other movies. I just I haven't seen enough of his other work, and so it's this was a really good movie in that respect. And it is about fatherhood and the fact that it doesn't matter if you're on the wrong side of the tracks of the law or the right side of the tracks. A man will go a very long way to protect his children and to do what he thinks is right by those that he's wronged. And it tells a really good story about that, even though, like I mentioned just earlier ago, like Ryan Gosling's only in the movie for 40 minutes. And when I was first watching it, I thought, oh, wow, this is like getting really fast. Like we're introduced to our character. Ryan's going to be in it for the whole deal. We're getting the rising action 25 minutes in. We're going to go rob a bank. And we got Ben Mendelsohn, who does a really good job with his American accent.
Oh, yeah.
Doing it as this guy with repairing stuff and things. This is not about Barbie, Mr. Walrus, although we will be reviewing Barbie and Oppenheimer in one episode. So yeah, it was good, and it was just sort of illustrated to me just sort of that desire that this guy's cucked, essentially, like this woman that he met like a year ago because he's like a traveling like daredevil with a circus. And it's Eva Mendes, and he's just like, I want to be a part of my kid's life. I don't want Marshawn Ali to be the father. And he's just like motivated to commit these acts of crime in order to do so and to take care of them and to raise them. And of course, he gets offed by Bradley Cooper, and that sort of sets the whole motion off for the rest of the movie. But yeah, it was a real shock to just see him flat out dead.
Yeah.
40 minutes into the movie, I was like, oh, damn, wow, this is going in a totally different direction.
Yeah. I was like, what are they going to do for the rest of the movie? And then, it tied it in pretty good.
Oh yeah, absolutely, sure did.
Spoiler alert, but of course this movie's been out since 2012.
This movie's like 11 years old. Like you should, simple as. You're gonna get spoiled. Sorry.
Apparently Gosling said about the film, it was this tweet that went viral, and like just before we were gonna go to stream, but then you had your appointment or whatever. It was like he said like, does Ryan Gosling have autism or no? Like he talks so. Like he's like, I was in the movie. I could like imagine his character from Lars and the Real Girl saying this. He's like, we were filming the movie and there was a lot of like family. There was a lot of family things there, and it's like I wanted to feel like that all the time with Eva Mendes. And
about how it made him feel like a father or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny because Ryan Gosling went to my university because his mother had like a degree or whatever, and he like went to the ceremony with Eva Mendes. But totally doxing myself. But no, it's funny. It's funny though because like the way I could just imagine him in his like autist character saying it. He's like, I wanted to feel that way for him.
So why? That's why I got the doll.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel that way forever. Yeah, he's Canadian.
He's Canadian. He's a Leaf. Yeah. I think he lives in the States.
He's one of the few. He's one of the few good Canadian exports to America.
Yeah. But it's funny though. Like I could just imagine Gosling and his like Lars and the Real Girl character. But anyway, so yeah, that's where they met, and I'm assuming they have a kid or two together now.
Are they married?
They're married. Yeah. They're married.
Okay.
But Eva Mendes, she did a good job though, like of like the poor, Hispanic working class girl. that's like caught up.
She looked great.
Yeah.
That's all I'll add there.
Yeah.
I'll have my moment there, but yeah, no, it was good to illustrate, like, again, right, like, what there's this it's this Joseph Campbell universality, right, to the story, where like it does not matter if you are like a white trash carny covered in tats, or if
Yeah.
you're like a white upper middle class cop that's trying to do the right thing. Fatherhood and being a father will be like this overriding instinct above all things, to give the best
But
life
having a
that you
problem
can for your
child as
son.
well.
And
Yeah.
having problem children is an issue, right? But like, what's the other problem for both of them is that your things that can happen in your life, the choices that you make, whether it's Ryan Gosling being the way that he is and the crimes that he's committed, or Bradley Cooper's character sort of engaging in a fatal police shooting and then being distant from his wife and kid from that moment on, is
Yeah.
definitely something that illustrates something. Illustrates, I think, just sort of like, yeah, it doesn't matter who you are, you can definitely have children that have problems, and how do you manage that as a father?
Yeah, exactly. But also like how the cycle repeats, because then um what's Gosling's character name? What's his name in the film?
Luke.
Yeah, like Luke's son, he like couldn't do it. Like he dug the grave. Bradley Cooper is right there, but then the cycle repeats. Now he goes off and he becomes a motorcycle carny, if I
Yeah,
recall.
the son
Yeah,
becomes the father.
yeah, the son becomes the father. But then of course like he has a revelation about like who his father was, and but the one thing that didn't make sense is that like Bradley Cooper as a cop, like he like just went in there and just started guns blazing. Like he didn't even
Well, he lied.
he
He
lied about it.
lied,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
which I thought was a really nice, honest bit there, because he's got the district attorney who comes in first, who's played by what's his name. He was the Captain Pike of the new Star Trek movies with J.J. Abrams, but he was the DA, and he's the first one who shows up. And he's like, "Who shot first, son? Don't mess with me."
Bruce Greenwald.
Yeah, thank you. He's like, don't shoot. Who shot first, right? And like in the movie, he capped him first, and then got shot in the
He's
leg.
like, don't bullshit me, son.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't bullshit me, son. You shoot first, and he sort of coaxes him into like, get your story straight before you have to go through this
Something
internal
serious
affairs
happens.
review. Yeah,
Yeah.
go into it. And so like, he shot first. I shot him.
Every cop drama tension.
Right, exactly, right. Every cop procedural. But Greedo shot first. That's right, Javier. But it does sort of illustrate the what he gets into, and then Ray Liotta and his gang plays a corrupt cop, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a mess.
Yeah, Liotta's very good at like corrupt cops or like very threatening mafia boss characters. The only time he did play a good guy was of course Henry Hill. And, and that was one of his greatest roles ever. So
he's been Lord rest his soul, but
yeah,
he has certainly missed quite a bit. Cine Animations, I'm glad you're back from Vespers. You haven't missed anything because we spent the first 45 minutes talking about Twitter and the news. We're just getting into the movie. Welcome to the Digital Archipelago. That's how it goes.
Oh yeah, Tommy Vercetti was a good character. He was a good guy in the end. So
that's true.
I don't know why, but I found his role in the Godfather, not the Godfather, in the Sopranos film, like particularly egregious. I didn't like Ray Liotta there. I liked him when he played the quote unquote twin brother. Like he was sort of like the wise, in jail. But like, first of all, I hated the Sopranos movie in general. I despised it. It was such a mockery. It was not worth your time. But anyways, Ray Liotta, yeah, he played a good corrupt cop. I remember he played this like one film where he was like a corrupt cop, but he was like obsessed with this dude's wife. He was like an ex-cop or whatever.
Yeah.
I forget what the film that was. But then he was like doing a lot of the creepy stuff, But anyways,
that's the other thing about fatherhood that we didn't touch on, because his dad was a former New York State Supreme Court judge, retired.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and he went to law school as well.
And he went to law school. He studied the bar, became a cop, gave speeches, eventually runs for Attorney General of New York.
Why would he become a cop if he was ready to be a lawyer? It's weird.
The movie didn't really tell us that. It just
Does that happen or no?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure there are plenty of guys that get some experience in that respect. And then, not to mention, not everyone who goes to law school or passes the bar ends up becoming a lawyer anyway.
Yeah.
So, but he goes to his dad, unlike, and that's another contrast between him and Ryan Gosling's character is that when the going gets tough, right? Well, like, what do I do about these corrupt cops? What do I do about this? He goes to his father and breaks the news to him and he asks his dad for advice. And we see this again reflected in both his child and Ryan Gosling's child. I think it's like AJ and Jason. Where all of a sudden you've got two kids, one who didn't have a father because, him and his mom split up and his mom's sort of like got a drug problem and he's got a drug problem. And then all of a sudden, you've got Ryan Gosling's kid who's just this like screw up, who's got some record of shoplifting. And it just not both of these guys, right? Like they don't have the same, very similar experiences, but one murdered the other guy's father, and the other one, of course, has got this more domineering, pushing attitude in their high school because they're both like 17 at this point. The movie does a big time skip from the shooting to the teenage kids, which is like quote unquote present day, and it's like it really does illustrate again, like how much of an impact not having an old man around really does. And it puts it in an oddly relatable stance because like, what is Jason's character obsessed about? He's obsessed about his real father, right? Like you're clearly this like, white kid, and you have a black stepfather. Like odds are, right? Like, that's not your dad. And it doesn't matter that like he raised you well or tried his best to take care of you. You want to know who your real father is. And you're not getting any answers. And then lo and behold, you find out that like this, your partner in crime's dad is like running for attorney general and shot your father like 17 years ago.
Yeah. The one thing that bothered me is that they didn't age though. Like it was jumped like 15 years into the future. And like Bradley Cooper's ex-wife and him didn't like age a bit. They should have at least put some like salt and pepper on his hair or something.
Yeah. But, the only person that looked aged was Ben Mendelsohn, but they didn't really need to do. They just said, "All right, Ben, don't put any makeup on today," and step out.
He did a really good job because I know like a lot of those working class guys that just they don't take care of themselves and they look like the work that they're doing. Like he's a mechanic, but he can't get work, and he like had that earthly like. If you've been to like these places that are semi-rural, like. Out in the boonies, like you've seen people like that, like that aesthetic.
Right. Two lots of land down from me is a guy that has like nothing but old beater cars and rusted projects in his yard, and he's got work, but I mean it all comes through like friends and family connections, and he restores stuff, but like. Yeah, that kind of man is what Ben Mendelsohn is playing, although he did used to rob banks.
Yeah. It's funny though, because another thing too is that did you notice that in a lot of Ryan Gosling films, there's this obsession with the mouth or like the threat of the mouth, like in Driver. Is that Drive?
In Drive.
Yeah, in Drive.
Which just came out a year prior to this movie.
Oh, that's right.
One's 2011, the other's 2012.
Oh,
Man was having some good acting roles in this time period. So was Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, although American Sniper is like total propaganda, but even though he's like a lib, I believe the Jesse Ventura story on like the American Sniper bid. Did you know about this?
No, I did not.
He sued Chris Kyle's estate for lying about him or whatever.
Oh.
Because like Chris Kyle like had some like ridiculous. Not to sully the dead, right? But like he did have like some ridiculous stories about like how he was sniping looters off the what's the football team in Louisiana, the Saints?
Yeah,
like off the stadium, the football stadium. He was like sniping looters off the stadium. Like it's like totally ridiculous thing. But in Drive, like he puts the nail in I forget who it was. It wasn't Ron Perlman, but it could have been Ron Perlman. He puts the hammer in his mouth.
Yeah.
But here he puts like the gun in his mouth, And there's like a number of things with like the mouth. Like I believe even in
there's
the
a strange
Believer,
oral fixation here.
Yeah, like even in the Believer, he had that too, where he's threatening someone. He like fish hook the guy. It's like funny. It's funny that way. Like Ryan Gosling, there is like this strange like threatening thing about the mouth. But yeah, during Katrina Mike Hawk, he like claimed that Mike Hawk hurts. you know? He claimed that he was sniping looters off the stadium during Katrina. But then like Jesse Ventura got into this like lawsuit thing with him, like when the unfortunate thing happened with Chris Kyle. Yeah, but I forget the details of it. I remember like Jesse Ventura went on Alex Jones to talk about it. I wonder if Barbie's gonna have oral fixation.
I'd bet good money on it. Even though it's directed by Greta Gerwig, right? You've already got like your Tarantino-esque shots.
Yeah.
So this will be somebody's material.
Jay, we have reviewed The Believer. Surprisingly, that was monetized.
But we reviewed the Believer, Lars and the Real Girl, and Drive in one stream.
Yeah, Drive was just like a total nostalgia fest. But I know like Ryan Gosling.
I have to chuckle, and I hope I don't. I hope I don't mean to give Charlemagne shit for it, but I remember he had said that he watched it recently. And he's like, "This is like a psychopathic film," and I'm like, "Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
that's
probably."
the case.
I love that one meme that came out of Drive. He's like, "She's mid, but I like her." It's he's like Ryan Gosling's like protecting what's her name from the what's her name? The girl, the single, the single mother. What's her name?
Movie cast.
Oh God, she's good looking though.
Carey Mulligan.
Yeah. But like when we say mid, I mean mid just means a girl we like that seems attainable. It doesn't like women like go crazy when you call them mid. But anyway, so Carey Mulligan. So this film though, I notice it is kind of a departure from the aesthetics of a lot of Gosling films. Like not really though, because I guess The Believer had that thing as well. But in terms of like what Gosling's used to, like whether it's Only God Forgives or like even like, well, we'll see with Barbie. There tends to be like a very strong aesthetic sensibility, and Gosling, I noticed that he managed to combine the sort of like vaporwave or like 80s like retro neon aesthetic with like the sort of lower class chud quote unquote flyover state America when he directed Lost River, because Lost River combines both those worlds. And of course Mendelssohn plays a very different character. And it's funny that they had Bruce Greenwald as well, because in all of the films he did with Adam McGowan, he also has like the sort of fantastical, for example, like when he was in Exotica, it was like the fantastical, exotic type of, neon aesthetic. But then when he did like The Sweet Hereafter, now you have like this rural town aesthetic as well that's in North America. So it's funny how they cast him in this as well. But I guess it just reinforces the notion that Ryan Gosling is like the everyman, is like the reason why he's like the literally me character, is because there is like it's something that his like particular temperament, the way he acts, taps into, like sacrificial, deferential, almost nihilistic, almost autistic, but yet there's something there. There's like a spark, an animating spark that drives him towards a greater level of duty in all of his films. Right? It's very funny that way. Whether it's like when it comes to like love and Lars and the Real Girl, when it comes to sacrifice and Drive, when it comes to other principles and The Believer,
Yeah.
But
I mean, Cindy had a good point in chat. Ryan's characters are always threatened by the consuming feminine.
Where is that?
This is from 20. From 15, so it's like 4 minutes old. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting comparison, right? Because like, well, maybe not in The Believer, because that's more about faith and identity. But I mean, definitely in like Drive or La La Land, or even in this movie, right? But I mean, in this movie, his motivations aren't about the woman; it's about the son.
A little bit about the woman, though.
Well, a little bit about the woman, right? Because like that's the woman that you made a baby with. Like that's clearly the woman that should be with you, not the and he avoids the consuming feminine multiple times by dying in every movie.
Yeah.
Although he has a little, well, I guess you would call it like a little, not to reference like Le Petit Mort, but he dies in some sense. He dies with the old man in La La Land because the relationship falls apart, but he gets his dream. He gets his jazz club. He gets his show. He gets his moment of fame. He gets his popularity. And then the finale of that movie is just this desire of what could have been in the flash of 5 minutes for the finale, and then it just goes out like this, where they go their separate ways and their lives go on. I have a love-hate relationship with that movie, but anyways,
but in The Believer, he sacrifices for, on the one sense, there is the feminine, right? There's
he dies for his people.
Yeah.
No greater love than to lay down the life for one friend.
Oh.
Kind of a little Christian undertone in this movie about dying for your fellow man. But anyways,
yeah. But also, like, he sort of reconciles his own identity crisis within The Believer. So
yeah,
that's like another. But yeah. Anyways, I thought it was really good.
I liked this movie.
You liked it, Fishy Frenzy. Of course you liked it. No.
He avoids the multiple times. I love that. Yeah, it's just I quite enjoy. He doesn't die in Blue Valentine. He just up and leaves. So true.
Yeah.
No, it's a good film, and I think that it's it's a very pro fatherly movie in a lot of respects because well, screw it. Like it men will do anything, I think, when they're fathers, that it's necessary for them to put all things aside and try and set things right with their kids. And I mean, even unlike Luke, his son, AJ, he doesn't opt to kill him.
Yeah.
He instead takes the money, buys a bike, and goes westward like his father.
Yeah. So the cycle repeats because the spiritual essence of the father will inevitably influence the son.
But I mean,
the son's LARPing.
But I don't think his son. But I like to think that the way that goes is that he got his closure. He doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to rob a bank or anything. He wants to be a motorcycle driver. He wants to be like his dad. And it's the old picture at the end, right, where he's just like, this is where we're at. This is the life that I'm going to live. I'm going to be like him, but I'm not going to be repeating the same mistakes. And I mean, that's his son becomes the driver, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the thing though, where all parents, we all have flaws, we all have things like that, and all parents will instill things in their children. And children, when they get older, and I mean, even now in my later 20s, and you now in your early 30s, like we both see our parents, and we both see our lives and things like that. And we see things that we don't want to be, and we see things that we want to avoid, or lessons to be learned.
Oh yeah.
And this movie is a really good representation of that from both sides of the tracks. And it has my recommendation. I would encourage everyone to go watch The Place Beyond the Pines. It's a good movie.
Oh yeah. But even like, that's what I mean. The aesthetic really does set it, of like the drama within the small town, which I feel like Ryan Gosling's characters is a very unique, like, it grates with the Hollywood norm. Like even Lars and the Real Girl, right? Like it grates with the norm because you're celebrating the sort of like the sensitive young man in a rural place growing up in like borderline poverty. Like Lost River also is like very like if I know I probably, well, I shouldn't say it's totally unoptical, because of course like the Perfume Nationalist people love them, but if you go to like Solid Cinema, I know that they haven't done a review in a while. Solid Cinema had a great review of Lost River. Maybe we'll cover that film one day. Of course, they laden it with all of, let's say, based world political analysis, but it is a great film because it does like it's sort of like an anti-Gummo in a way. Like there's redemption within like the bombed out post-industrial American heartland, and this film as well also embodies that.
I have not seen this movie, despite it being directed by
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a great film.
I'll have to go watch it.
And it's got Christina Hendricks in it as a MILF. So
things haven't changed much since Mad Men, have they, kids?
But it's a great film. But Yeah, but Place Beyond the Pines, it does have a vibe to it. It does have a sort of, I wouldn't say a celebration, but at least an honest depiction of like semi-rural, like working class America. That, you know, it has a sympathetic tone to the chunk.
Yeah, and it's upstate New York. Like, this isn't the
Yeah.
city. This is Schenectady. This is not. It's Place Beyond the Pines. It's in the name, right? And yeah, Killing Them Softly. I don't know. Is it underrated? Like, it's a great film. It's one of those like peak 2008 hope and change in the backdrop of this like shitty financial crisis that we've never recovered from.
That one line that Brad Pitt delivers is great about this guy wants to change things. America's a business. In America, you're on your own. Like, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so we should review that movie one of these days.
That's a good, yeah.
Because I mean, here's the thing: if you had, they'll never make a good Blood Meridian movie, and I know that they're going to try again. They're going to try again. I don't know if it'll ever go to screen.
Was there a Blood Meridian movie?
No, they've tried many times over the years to make a Blood Meridian film. If there is one that's out there, I'm not going to watch it. But I mean, I know that there
who should play Judge Holden?
Who?
Garbage Ape should play Judge.
He would be. He has the physiognomy for it, but no.
Like they should have made. When did Blood Meridian come out?
It's like I want to say what 90s Blood Meridian. When was it published? 85. Okay, I thought it was 91.
So Marlon Brando was still alive. He could have played Judge Holden.
Oh yeah, the fat drunkard who was getting in trouble for calling out Hollywood so-and-sos. Yeah, I don't know how that would have gone. But if you shot Blood Meridian in the same sort of realistic depiction of how things are done, like Killing Them Softly, you probably would have a good movie. But they're going to frame it as white man bad, and they're going to make the judge the epitome. They'll probably like not follow the film, and they'll follow the book, and they'll probably make Judge Holden this good-looking, suave, character, Dutch Reform, and all that sort of jazz. And they're gonna shit on him. And so that'll be the case.
Herzog should play the judge. That'd be good. Werner Herzog playing it, but he's just gonna get fatter though. He's gonna get bald and fat.
Everyone is waiting for the dance. Herzog, I think, is a little too old to play Judge Holden. That's just me.
Yeah, like in Jack Reacher. Reacher was pretty. The series is all right. But it's funny. It's funny though. Like how Hollywood does have this complicated relationship to like the actual people that watch Hollywood movies in America. Like by complicated, I mean like outright disastrous relationship. But then again, it was always that way.
Well, it's like that trailer for this alleged survival action RPG about killing conquistadors in tech. Like
that's what sparked the Howling Mutants.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, like it's just a disaster.
Ryan Gosling.
It'll get modded so fast, so you play as the good guys. Yeah,
it will. It will. That's funny though about like that's another thing I want to talk about before we get to this article. This like the weirdo cyber communists who are like we could just edit reality. They resurrected. It was in response to the Aztec game. They resurrected the Donna Haraway cyborg feminist quote. If nature is unjust, just change nature. I did a short on this. I did a YouTube short. Where they're like, if nature's unjust, just change nature. And it's like this whole thing about like they can edit the syntax of reality. They can edit the whatever code it is behind the wall of reality in nature. And I'm thinking like that is that not the basis of like all contemporary leftist ideology right now? Apparently, what is this true?
What?
Only Joe.
Oh yeah, he did.
Oh my God! What tweet? Which was the Irish one?
The thread about how leftists are narcissistic psychopaths.
Oh, that one! Can you imagine Keith Woods and Joe Rogan?
I would love to see how they vet their guests.
Oh, definitely.
I don't see that ever happening. Unless they brought him on for like a Spotify exclusive struggle session, but
like that's why they won't have Sam Hyde on.
No. Never.
But you'd figure Sam Hyde would be the perfect guest for Joe Rogan, though.
Sam Hyde would be the perfect guest for almost any podcast.
Yeah. But I mean, his cultural legacy is big enough for that. You know what I mean? Like, I figure like if you had like Jordan Peterson on, like not to equate Jordan Peterson to Sam Hyde, but I'm saying like out of all of like the sort of like post Gamergate, post 2016 like alt-right people that Joe Rogan had on, it doesn't really make sense that Sam Hyde isn't on Joe Rogan. Like it just his cultural stock. I don't want to go into another fish tank rant because I should just write a chapter about fish tank in my book, but like I feel like with what Sam Hyde's managed to do in terms of like internet culture is truly monumental. But Joe Rogan needs Thomas 77 on to talk about World War II. That'd be amazing. That'd be the day. But I don't know. Like, I just can you imagine the fallout though if like certain people pay attention to the fact that Joe Rogan retweeted like Keith Woods?
I'd imagine that there are probably people in his mentions or replies saying, like, why are you platforming this? Like,
who's that one journalist that did the whole like hit piece with Cathals against Twitter or whatever?
I don't know.
Ben Collins.
But if that's the case, then all the more reason to hate journalists. You don't hate journalists enough, folks. You don't. Freelance or syndicated. You don't hate them enough.
Yeah, it was some like MSNBC journalist that did this like inside job thing with that one Twitch streamer I mentioned. It was like a whole thing. But anyways, not to bring it up. So yeah, what was I going to say? So the cyber communism thing. Did you see that going down, Prude? Or
no, I did not. I mean, I saw the tweet just change nature, and I saw remnants, but I've not really been on Twitter these last couple of days, which has been good for me. I've been getting through a review copy of Millennium, so I'll have a review out hopefully next week. It's been an enjoyable read so far. I quite like it. I actually really like it when and it's the same reason why I really like Paulos over at Myth Pilot is because vignettes are always. I think they're really good. Like, is a way to express your talent because it's not like a fully lengthy story. It's very short. It's very contained. It gives me everything that I need to know in this length of time, and so it's really good in that respect. I'm quite a fan.
Look at this by Cine. I think that Jersh delayed his podcast. So can you imagine if Null watches the Digital Archipelago?
Is this where I'm going to sound really bad if I say I don't know who the hell that is?
You don't know?
No, I don't.
Joshua Connor Moon?
No, I don't know who that is.
The creator of Kiwi Farms?
Oh, well, it'd be cool if he did, but no.
We should have him on the show. No, we get totally. I get so, but Turkey Tom had him on, and Turkey Tom's channel isn't nuked, so.
Turkey Tom is way bigger than either of us.
Yeah, true. So.
And he's kind of in that like range of acceptability.
I could probably get Turkey Tom on the show.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, I streamed with him in the BTR days, so.
We should do an episode on Succession. Yes, but that would require me to watch Succession.
Yeah, I haven't watched Succession.
And I believe it or not, I'm not going to watch it for the same reason everyone else is going to do.
Because Dasha was on it for a few episodes.
I don't care. I'm sorry. Like I know Ross Douthat did an article in the New York Times about Succession, and
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I have no desire to watch it. I don't. I'm sorry. Like I don't care. I really don't. No,
but is it a good show worth watching to the chat or no?
Yeah, please. Memes aside, on right-wing Twitter and Dying Square Twitter, is the show worth watching?
Yeah, Yerk really likes the show, and Vile really likes the show. So, yeah, what's a Dasha? I don't know who's Dasha. Apparently,
so mid it hurts.
Apparently, Taylor Swift has listened to Red Scare.
I was about to say Taylor Swift's dating some. This is the thing that people are getting obsessed about. And there was a video by Paul Vanderklay that I quite liked. He was doing sort of this reaction about the cultural bits, and he's like, imagine how how bad your worldly and spiritual life has to be that you have to write this lengthy blog post saying that it's ethical for you to enjoy Taylor Swift's artistry, despite the fact that she's allegedly dating some racist.
Yeah.
I have no.
But is he an
no
actual
care.
racist though?
I don't
Because
know. Who
he
gives a
just
shit?
admitted to like I saw this big tweet by some like culture, like it was Rolling Stone or whatever, it was some other like pop culture nonsense, and it was like he's a racist anti-Semite. But I'm like, is it just because he watches Red Scare that people think he's a racist and an anti-Semite? Like I don't understand. Like it's just it's so obnoxious, and it's so indicative of how far down the toilet mainstream culture is that I really shouldn't even pay attention to it. But yeah, I do remember those alt-right memes back in the day of Taylor Swift, before Taylor Swift became like a lib and like, did the LGBT music video. But I just think it's stupid, and really, who cares? Taylor Swift is dating William Real, right?
She's dating the best racist. Imagine. Although I like to think that William Wheelwright has far more, his better taste.
Well, he's way higher T than the guy that she's dating. What's his name? Getting canceled.
He's too busy planting grounds on his garden in order to ensure that his future parish of traditional regenerative agriculture Catholics can emerge, and they have their farms so that their wheeled chariot Catholic step warriors can, hold the sign of the cross as they go about retaking the lands around them. I'm just trying to come up with something that'll get clipped again by him. Because we had a clip a while back. I don't know which episode it was, where we were saying that William Reelwright and his like hardy chain of like Catholic step warriors are going to like have their own Genghis Khan moment, repopulate the earth, and that's been shared around by way too many people. Although it's a good thing, I think, in that respect. But yeah, any day now, right? We'll have it there.
Any day. Matt Healy. Who is this Matt Healy guy? What is he doing?
The person that she's dating. Why do we care? Why do we care? He's an English singer-songwriter. I don't know from what band or what he does. We wouldn't be having this conversation if Taylor Swift was a man. He's the chief vocalist and chief lyricist for the pop band The 1975. Who gives?
Oh my god! Dude,
who gives a fuck?
That's like such a meme band. Who cares? Of like hipsters.
Who gives a shit? Who cares? I'm sorry. Like, this story only matters to shit libs. I don't care.
Yeah.
This is not news. This is just people making a big deal over the fact that a white man is like listening to a podcast that is slightly non-shit libby. Who gives a fuck? I'm sorry. Like, if she were dating someone from like a drummer from Sum 41, or maybe some guy that talks about the Kali Yuga, we'd have different opinions. But it's news for shit libs. I have no interest in this. When she starts talking about 14 words or whatever, maybe I'll pay attention. But until then, I don't care. I don't care. Why are we talking about this? None of this matters. This doesn't matter. Succession doesn't matter. Get back to me when there's decent media. Until then, we're going to be talking about movies that are 10 plus years old.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really care for Taylor Swift. I don't think. I mean, whatever. I don't really care. She's just another airhead pop star. Who cares? It's just like, it's. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
She laughed at he laughed at a Nick Mullen joke on the Adam
Friedland
that's
show. What makes
he liked a Compound joke. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, this is hilarious. You know what's funny? I retweeted my one follower. He's like, back in the day, like rock stars used to like literally like go with women of questionable age, and like David Bowie said he like loves the Austrian painter, and it's just like but it was ironic, so he got a pass for that. But nowadays, it's like you just have to like a post-left podcast. That's all it takes to like get canceled. Like, no, it's just I don't know. I don't like Taylor Swift. It's like just I don't really particularly.
I gotta listen to two. Never mind. There's no point. None of this matters.
She's still a lib. Though.
None of this matters.
Isn't she still a lib?
She's a diehard lib.
Yeah. What if she could lose weight? Zero HP love. Thank you, Philip Daniel.
So true.
She's not a MILF, so Gio doesn't care. No, not true.
Post the Molly meme tweet. Post the Molly meme tweet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe Matt Healy will, and like maybe Matt Healy has listened to he's read Bronze Age mindset, so he's gonna like impregnate Taylor Swift, and it's gonna be like a thing.
She's gonna start peating. She's gonna do everything that she
Yeah,
needs to do to start having children after 30, and all of a sudden,
yeah.
she
You
did a
can
concert
pee.
in Nashville. For the Troon. So no, screw
She'll
her.
go back to doing country music.
Yeah, she'll go back. Oh, country already sucks now, right? Like,
Yeah.
Taylor Swiftler is not gonna happen, folks. Get over it.
No, women over 30, like if they peat hardcore, they could have a healthy kid up until like 35, 36. They take progesterone apparently, and they like really they health max. They could probably have a kid by the time they're 40. And that's what this is what Ray P people have said to me. So I don't know. Maybe I should test this theory with a 40-year-old e-girl. So
well, Bronze Age Shoddy's over 30. You got a chance.
I love how you said that, bro. Oh man.
Okay. This is
it's not that I don't like Bronze Age Shoddy. I think she's a nice girl. It's just that, like, please, like Bronze Age Shoddy, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything.
I will. I'll just dive in and jump on this grenade. And this also applies to you and I, Gio.
All right.
Isn't it more depressing by the fact that all of this discussion over vitalism and this discussion over, like, things that we need to do, the things that need to be done. Taking progesterone, right, all that jazz. Isn't it sad, right, when the most depressing part of her review of Bronze Age Mindset is in the first 3 sentences. Of being a 29-year-old woman without children that has never produced anything worthwhile in her life, I guess I will put out this review of the book. And I thought to myself that was the most depressing part of that entire review.
Yeah.
It is, because it's true. Why are there so many? And the same reason why there's plenty of 20-somethings and 30-somethings that are in this scene that are childless. Is that everyone in here is a culture and a product of the ashes.
Exactly.
Everyone in here, this is what we're going to rant about. And this is the thing about it, right? Is that we're all going to be these people that are these, dare I say, right-wing eunuchs. That, here we are for just in time for a little bit of fun, just a little bit of time to commentate on the ruins, to laugh at our jokes, to laugh at our memes. And at the end of the day, the same advice that I give to everybody, are you happy about the face that you see when you turn off the phone screen at night? It applies to most of us here. Myself included, and maybe I'm having a little bit of a therapy moment, but like that's the case, is that we're all a little fucked up, and
we're all a little abnormal.
We're all a little paranormy, and this is where we're at. And
a lot of us are failed normies. Let's admit it. It's true.
A lot of us are screen-addled, failed normies that have all wanted to be something, that are shooting our shot into the internet for 5 minutes of fame, and sometimes we get it. And we're very blessed when we do. But the things that we really, and this is the ultimate debate over like wife guys and things like that. Did something happen to me recently? No, I'm just pointing out what I think is the obvious, is that unless you're married and have children and are putting well for yourself.
We all want to be in high school again too.
I don't.
Want to be in high school. Me neither, but like I noticed the dynamic of like these right-wing e-girls. It's like they want to like have like a high school thing. Like I said this on Telegram. You should subscribe to me in Prude's Telegram where we really go off. Where I said like basically they want to do like this, like they're gonna like have
they listened to that one Bowling for Soup song and thought, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, like the boys. They listen to like the Wheatus song, Teenage Dirtbag, and they all listen to that the e-girls listen to that Bowling for Soup song. They're gonna make a list of all the hottest right-wing e-boys, and they're gonna leak the list. Did they?
They did a voice thing.
Yeah.
Jeez,
man. We should have entered Prude. The Digital Archipelago should have represented.
No.
I'm kidding.
I've edited my voice more than enough times to know that I don't need to subject myself to the opinions of internet anons that happen to claim to be women when most of them probably aren't. So I'm not particularly interested in their fucking opinion.
People don't know this, but Prude has an actual voice that he's. This is a put on right now.
Oh, Prude has heard my voice. Prude. Gio's heard my actual voice, and the southern affectation is far more real.
I was shocked.
I was driving down, sending voice messages, responding to a question Gio asked me, and I've done it a few times with Sandbatch too, where he's talking about like arguments he's getting into on Twitter. And hold on, I'll see if I'll try and put on the real voice for a minute.
Right.
where he says, I told him, I was like, well, Sam Batch, I'm driving, so I can't really see who you're fighting with for obvious reasons, but I hope both sides have fun. See you, friend. And left it like that. And is this my Bat voice? No, this is the voice that I have because I did speech and debate for like 8 years in high school and college, and they like drill the fucking accent out of you because you have to do this perfect enunciation, and you have to talk with a very clear voice in order to elucidate the opinion that comes out the way that it is. Yeah, elocution, right? It's just kind of fucked up. And it's just awful. And so, yeah, if I'm around family or I'm not here, it's a much different voice, which is funny because then I have like 3 voices. I have voice for like recording and podcasting. I have my normal voice in conversations with my Texas affectation. And then I have a third voice, which is the voice I use for church, which is the only way I can pull off Byzantine chant in the choir.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. But no, we don't like, we're not like targeting Bronze Age Shoddy. I'm just saying that.
No. I have nothing against this person. It's just, that was the saddest thing I read in that review because it was also very relatable.
Yeah, 100%.
And the fact that it's like, I'm 27, I have no wife, I have no children, and I'm complaining about civilizational decline, and I'm very much a product of it. And
yeah, 100%.
The world that you live in also sort of, and I have a long rant coming about this on Substack. This might just happen to me. I may put that behind the paywall, but I don't know. But it's more or less just the simple fact of the matter that what has been the primary like cultural affectation for a lot of millennial men and Zoomer men has been all these characters that self-sabotage relationships. They thrive off the insecurity, the neuroticism, and fetishizing their own sadness and problems. And so all of a sudden, right, like that, of course that has a cultural impact. Men aren't acting like men or the way that men's supposed to be, because what has been their desires have been like, well, these characters are the way that the real life reflects it. And I think that's a huge problem. And that's the place beyond the ruins. This is that self-cognizant affectation that all of a sudden you realize, like, all of these like romantic caricatures and films, everything from the fucking Shins and things like that in the 1975 and Zach Braff characters are actually really fucking bad for you. And if you're lucky, you can escape it and get the hell out of there and find something. But yeah, that's the case. And no, I'm not going to do that. I will, if I'm going to do anything, Jay, I will probably go to a parish by the college that's an hour away from me and go there more regularly than my own. But no, that's the case.
Well, if Bronze Age Shoddy is single, I mean,
go for it, Gio.
Well, she doesn't follow me though.
I'm not she doesn't follow me either. Yeah, Walrus, I have a long rant about the BoJack Horseman being a millennial magnum opus. It's bad. And I will probably review it season by season on Substack. I hate it. I hate it. And I watched that show from the beginning when I graduated high school and went into college until it ended when I recently moved. And I was like, this, and looking back, I'm like, this is awful. This is everything wrong. Nothingness without end. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. If you want a right wing, if you want a right wing matchmaker, Matthew Berry, there's always Justice Murphy's arranged marriage application or Indian Bronson's thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
Those are the abysses that you can stare into.
But no, but it's funny though. I feel like the creation of fantasy when it comes to, I won't even say fantasy, but the creation of like a hyper instantiated version of yourself on the internet. I mean, there's a reason, like, a lot of right-wing culture is sort of like on the internet is like, I do think that, like all things, I mean, we do like to like bomb on the irony leftists and all that, but I mean, controversial take, and maybe I'm just like revealing the kayfabe right now, but like a lot of right-wing culture on the internet is sort of still coming from a place of millennial nostalgia. It is still like instantiated within, and I feel like we ignore it because we talk about like these high-minded philosophic issues, or we talk about the usual coal about like TikToks from podcasts about women and e-girls and dating discourse and age gap discourse, blah, blah, blah. It's all stupid. It's all high school crap. But there still is that millennial nostalgia at the core of a lot of these e-right posters coming from 2016 onwards. And yeah, exactly.
We
Bourgeois.
missed
It
Bill
is all about
Clinton.
aesthetics.
I do. The only thing about the
Yeah.
90s you should be nostalgia for is the what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yes, the incarceration rates and being tough on crime.
No,
That's
I
about
do
the
it
only thing
too,
I'm nostalgic
obviously.
for.
Like, okay, I was saying this to my old man last night because I was talking about the tweet I made where I rediscovered this Canadian alt rock band they used to play during hockey games, right? Like the reason, and the Scott Greer tweet about new metal, like the recent one about how the right wing wants to create an avant-garde, but you're still addicted to like early 2000s stuff. Because I feel like the early 2000s was still a time where you could be a young man and you could enjoy chud culture because like everything was more in your face and chuddish and violent, and like hockey was more violent, wrestling was better, music was more edgy, everything was edgier. It was like like late 90s early 2000s edgy chud culture seems reactionary by hindsight because of today's standards, where nowadays everything is like either this like bland hipsterism, or it's like hip hop culture, or it's like the Lizification of America, or it's like this weak can't like post 2010s coal of like whatever, the way that Me Too just cleared everything out, and like how we have to like relitigate it now. It's like we have to relitigate the early 2000s, or even like nowadays where like the leftoids, they're trying to like pull back by saying that whole thing recently with that Hannah Gatsby terrible, disgusting.
What was that?
Yeah,
the only thing I've ever associated Hannah Gatsby with is a fat, ugly, lesbian, self-declared comedian who is not worth your time or effort. I don't know why they push her so much.
No, but
she's
they were
just like, that's right. Why, we can have domestic violence as long as it's a woman and she's a comedian. Like that's all I know about her.
No, but do you know on Twitter what's his name? Seven Steve.
No, I don't know who that is.
What's his handle? He also is a fellow Canadian, but he was talking about how they were like trying to contain the Hannah Gatsby thing with Picasso, where they had like this journalist like saying that maybe it's cringe. You know what I mean? So it's really funny that way. They were like doing this thing where they were relitigating the cancellation of Picasso. And let me find his handle.
They were canceling Picasso?
No, she was canceling Picasso, where she was like going around the gallery, like talking about he was an evil misogynist, and like he was he did all this bad stuff. And silenced on site on Twitter, Steez on Twitter, 7 _STEZE. He's a good friend of mine. He's a Canadian, but he was talking about how basically the what they're doing, like what the contemporary left is doing, is that they're trying to like rein in the excesses of it by saying that the whole thing that happened for a week where like Hannah Gatsby like canceled Picasso, that maybe that was cringe, right? And here's the thing: you can hate on Picasso all you want, but to like just to shit on the legacy of Pablo Picasso is like it's like a further sign of cultural rot. It's like this. And it's funny how Spengler also predicted this, how the meta symbols within the work of art, which again I'm writing about in my book, right? Like the meta symbols of the work of art will be relitigated by the declining winter phase of that civilization, looking to its past. And so the fact that like the left can now, after years of the 2010s, can go back and say, I think Me Tooing Pablo Picasso is a bit too far. It's like, no, that's crap. What's funny is that the article that we're going to cover next is actually a good piece of academic feminism, in my opinion. Shocking, right? Shocking how you can have a nuanced perspective on things.
You know who sent me this article?
Who?
Sandbatch?
Yeah. There you go.
Sandbatch sent it to me, and he's just like, I actually like believe this argument, and I was just like, oh well, I guess I'll have to review it one of these days.
You know what's funny is that some of the themes of this article comes up in The Place Beyond the Pines a little bit when it comes to Ava Mendes.
Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema by Laura Mulvey.
Exactly. So let's pull it up.
In 1975.
Yeah.
So 1973. So the article is a reworked version of a paper given to the French department at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, spring of 1973. So we're old, but here we go.
Here we go. So finally, visual pleasure in narrative cinema.
Don't say we're anti-women on this show.
Exactly. Okay, we're gonna bring on Bronze Age shoddy onto.
I wouldn't go that far, but we will platform an article written by a woman.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should review the Bronze Age shoddy review. No, that would be too much. The people would like go.
I'm not that. We're not that.
No, we're not that petty.
We're not that much of an F slur, Gio.
No. But we will have our favorite rad fem. No, I'm kidding. You already shot down that idea. You're like,
I'm not having rad fem.
Austrian painter.
Yeah, I'm not having rad fem Austrian on.
Listen, I know, like, we're cool. Like, I'm cool with her.
I have that individual blocked on Twitter, actually. So my life is pretty good to never see those takes.
You have Radfem blocked on Twitter?
Yeah.
Oh my god, our mutuals are there.
I have Luke Turner blocked. I have everyone from Luke Turner to like Radfem Austrian Painter blocked. I have
about 200 to 300 Nafo accounts blocked.
I've got most of those guys blocked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I block liberally.
No, Luke Turner you gotta block though.
Oh, I'm already blocked by him as well, so it works out both ways.
Yeah, I think he has a block list. He has a network Travis Brown block list. Yeah. But anyways, so I don't know if we're gonna go like word by word, but so the introduction is just stating that it's to use psychoanalytic theory to analyze film. The paradox of phallocentrism and its all its manifestations is that it depends on the image of the castrated woman to give order and meaning to the world. And this is where I thought of Place Beyond the Pines, an idea of a woman standing as a linchpin to the system. It is her lack that produces the phallus as a symbolic presence. It is her desire to make good the lack that the phallus signifies. Recent writings in Screen about the psychoanalysis in cinema had not sufficiently brought on the importance of the representation of the feminine form in a symbolic order in which, in the last resort, it speaks castration and nothing else. So this is classic 70s feminist theory. This is where Eric Gehry also analyzes film. This is sort of like the new left, version of feminism that's taking a lot of like French new theory and postmodernism and so forth. But I would say that the psychoanalytic...
This is new left feminism. Straight up.
Yeah. Freudianism is in here. But when you look at this, though, this is almost Jungian in a way. Like, this is sort of like the anima complex, how the woman gives herself into an opening to be then, to create the phallus, the masculine energy, if you will.
Well, yeah, she says that later down the line. She says she must either gracefully give way to the word, the name of the Father, and the law, or else struggle to keep her child down with her in the half-light of the imaginary.
But exactly. But when you look at The Place Beyond the Pines, don't you think that Eva Mendes' character is kind of like that? Like, she is the linchpin of his awakening into fatherhood, into masculinity, into doing what his celestial duty demands of him. Right. And
I really will argue and just say, I think it's more of Ryan Gosling does not want to be cuckolded and have
true.
To have a black guy racist kid.
No,
sorry, it's more of a motivating factor for me than other than like, Eva Mendes is the mother of my child. I'm sure that's obvious. I'm not a father either, so like I can't speak to that much. But yeah, I mean, she's the linchpin because she gave birth to his kid, and he hadn't seen her.
No, but also like her character is also like lacking of direction and meaning. Like she's sort of like
not in the movie a heck of a whole lot.
Yeah, either. But like she's the template of like I am an aggrieved woman. And like I'm being invaded by the outside, and so Ryan Gosling has to like create the stability around her, and it's sort of like I think that's where I interpreted this. So, a woman's desire is subjected to her image as a bearer of the bleeding wound. She can exist only in relation to castration and cannot transcend it. She turns her child into the signifier of her own desire to possess a penis. So this is like Freudian penis envy, which a lot of feminist theorists like they rejected. But
yes, Jay.
This one,
do female intellectuals write anything other than that? They do, but no.
Yeah.
But actually, yes. But actually, no. But actually, yes.
Either she must gracefully give way to the word, the name of the Father, and the law. So the order of the Father is another Lacanian concept where the sort of like the rule of the Father is the superego, if I recall. And it goes, and she talks about the mirror phase in this article. But, so the woman is subject to the order of the Father as well. And there's a lot of like feminist theory around relations of like fathers and daughters. And even in film, they analyze this as well. Like the domineering patriarchal figure. The sort of woman has to find that her lack is like a sounding board of the masculine. And so this is like the Freudian feminist critique of a lot of like film theory and a lot of like cultural production as well. A lot of like, art history goes into this as well with painting. And so women then stand in patriarchal culture as signifier for the male other, bound by the symbolic order in which a man can live out his fantasies and obsessions through linguistic command by imposing them on the silent image of women still tied to her place as the bearer of meaning, not maker of meaning. So it's sort of like what Paglia said, how the woman is and the man becomes, right? That the woman is a place of meaning, but a woman does not create meaning because she is meaning, right? So, of course, a feminist theorist would critique this, but then this article talks about Vertigo by Hitchcock, which is a very great example of this, which we'll get into. So,
I should review Vertigo one of these days. I would like to have a day where we review Hitchcock movies.
Oh yeah.
Why Paglia endorse that? Because that is one of the end results of logical conclusions of her ideology. Yeah. Whether she admits it or not, and in her case, she admits it. But yeah, is this a convo that 70s stuff?
Yeah. No, but what would you say that her ideology, like the end result of is?
Endorsing that?
Oh, that like Paglia goes to like actually.
She does endorse it. That's the problem. That's like her problematic. Well, it was problematic like 20 years ago. Nowadays,
why that she hates women or what?
No, she endorses. Well, no, what Lewis Katchett said in chat, like she endorses pedophilia.
Oh yeah.
That's the logical conclusion of her ideology, whether she likes it or not.
Also, other problematic things as well.
Yeah, which I mean, this goes back to all of the Judith Butler stuff, like this sort of stuff that we're putting on here. These are the people that lead you to the logical conclusions of like radical liberation for women, specifically like women's like this stuff has a logical endpoint conclusion that you're seeing being played out right now in 2023.
Yeah,
50 years ago. And again, this talks. You want to talk about like the long march to the institutions? This was in 1973. This was literally 50 years ago on the dot. And Laura Mulvey probably would be, if she's still alive, is probably very unhappy with some of the stuff that it's gone too far. Or I could be wrong. She could be like a 60-year-old rad femme that had no children. But these are the things that illustrate the avant-garde critical theory lens that existed 50 years ago. And you wonder, well, damn, like where did all this weird stuff come around in 2014? Well, it had been in colleges for 50 years. And this is the fun part stuff about, how amazing they can lead you down the primrose path. I mean, the primrose path was being laid down by these folks 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And this is where I kind of have to chuckle because on one hand, is James Lindsay absolutely correct pointing this shit out? Absolutely. It's the solutions where he's wrong, and he can't let go of the fact that this is the institution. These are the things that he defended. These were the things that he spoke out against as a radical young atheist in the George W. Bush years, and that he can't let go. In his own essence, he is a critical theory version of the believer. Because when you open up critical theories, his book. What is the introduction about? What is the author's note about? It's about defending gays. It's about defending their rights. Whoa. Despite the fact that the logical conclusion to all of that is the shit that we're currently battling in today's culture war.
Right, but then when you read this article, though, it's not that it's exactly wrong. Like you can interpret, for example, Vertigo as being heavily about the male gaze towards the feminine. Like that, like that's what I mean. It's so frustrating because this leads to a lot of the social route we're seeing, but then at the same time, I mean, maybe it's because of my own time in academia. There is something to it.
There is truth.
There's truth.
There is pleasure in destruction. There's pleasure in the male gaze that we take from women.
Yeah.
In film, and that we can get off on violence, and I mean these are innate things though. that are just the case.
Yeah. So, for example, she says here, there is an obvious interest in the analysis for feminists of beauty in its exact rendering of the frustration experienced under the phallocentric order. It gives us near. So again, it's sort of like the woman is imposed meaning on. She's not a co-creator of meaning. She is an object that is derived meaning from. But that is very static.
Women were made second.
Yeah, exactly.
Created. Anyways. Ribs. Sorry. Just saying. Anyways.
We're still separated by a great gap by important issues of the feminine conscious, which are scarcely relevant to phallocentric theory. The sexing of the female infant in her relationship to the symbolic, the sexual mature woman as non-mother, maturity outside the significance of the phallus. So it talks about how meaning creation is still an act of the masculine, and sort of the role of the woman as a source of meaning, but not a creator of meaning. This is like the ultimate frustration. And this also represents the frustration of the phallus, the sort of phallocentric, male-centric patriarchal world, to wrestle the chaotic energy of the feminine, which I think that, Paglia is correct on. But, her interpretation of it is sort of weird and crazy. And even by like contemporary, like feminist academic standards, that's why they don't like her anymore. But anyways, let's go to Hollywood, large capital investment. It just talks about the history of Hollywood here. Here's the pertinent part. The alternative cinema provides a space for a cinema to be born, which is radical in both political and an aesthetic sense and challenges the basic assumptions of the mainstream film. This is not to reject the latter moralistically, but to highlight the way in which its formal preoccupations reflect the psychological obsessions of society. So this is sort of like French New Line. This is also like the avant-garde film in America. This is the breaking down of the Hays Code in the 70s. So now you have like Hitchcock and others creating like more of a experimental space within cinema in Europe and America and elsewhere. But the magic of Hollywood style at its best, and of all the cinema which fell within the sphere of influence, arose not exclusively but in order to improve important aspect from its skilled and satisfying manipulation of visual pleasure. Unchallenged mainstream film coded the erotic into the language of the dominant patriarchal order, while nowadays we see film trying to do the opposite, and film kind of sucks nowadays. But I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. That's kind of weird. So in the highly developed Hollywood
I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why. You have a Bechdel test passing films don't translate into good cinema.
Damn well that's going to be referenced on the nose, fourth wall breaking in Barbie.
Oh yeah, definitely. 100%.
100%. I watched the trailer. I told myself I was going to go in blind, and then I watched the trailer.
Oh boy.
I'm more interested in watching the movie now because I know this is going to be Greta Gerwig's like magnum opus for social commentary.
Oh yeah.
And I find her to be probably one of the more, dare I say, interesting women in Hollywood.
Oh yeah. What else did she do?
What else has Greta Gerwig done? Other than her acting, I think this is she's done quite a few what's her directorial stuff? Let me go get it. That way I can pull it up. But she's been in quite a few acting roles in that respect. She's been a writer for Hannah Takes the Stairs, Northern Comfort, Mistress America, Lady Bird, of course, is probably one of her more famous. This was her that was her directorial debut.
Oh, that's terrible propaganda, though.
Oh, I know. She also did Little Women.
Oh boy.
And now we've got Barbie, which is inspired, of course, and we should probably read this book before we review it. But apparently, a lot of the influence is going to be from reviving Ophelia from Mary Pfeiffer.
Oh, really? Eh?
Yeah, saving the selves of adolescent girls.
Oh my god. Well, that's like that book about the young girl. That was a great one.
It's case studies.
Oh wow. Maybe we should read that. We should read that.
I mean, it's a therapist book talking about sexism.
Man, have you ever read Love's Executioner? That's a great therapist book. He talks about like different patients. That's a really great book. I highly recommend it.
But this book is like 30 years old, and I'm reading off the Wikipedia page because Again, some of the shit we're dealing with now, time is a flat circle. For instance, families. This section analyzes the role of families in the development of adolescent girls. Francesca, 14, a Lakota girl adopted by white parents and searching for cultural identity. You know?
Whoa.
Rosemary, raised in a liberal household that encouraged individuality, Rosemary became rebellious and self-conscious during adolescence. You know, things like, again, time is a flat circle, and the same shit that we're dealing with 30 years ago, 60 years ago, 20 years ago, it's all back here to bite us in the ass.
Exactly. This part, I'll read this page and you read the other page. It said the analysis, pleasure, beauty destroys it. The article discussing improving the erotic pleasure in film of looking. This is the intention of the article, the satisfaction reinforcement of the ego that represents the high point of film history. Hitherto must be attacked. Must be attacked. Well, not in the favor of reconstructing a new pleasure, which cannot exist in abstract. So this is where like Mulvaney's more honest, because it's like you can't create like these female-centric films and like pretend it's going to be all right. Like you're going to challenge something that's been there at the primordial root of the unconscious. But to make way for a total negation of the ease and plenitude of the narrative fiction, this is why rad femmes are probably much better, like the old school rad femmes, than these like, you know, the wokesters we have nowadays, because at least they're honest about the fact that the negative dialectic that you're employing here cannot be reversed in a way. You can't just make like this female-centric films and be like, you know, like Lady Bird or whatever, and be like, you know, yeah, there you go, girl boss, hashtag more female CEOs or whatever. The alternatives, the thrill that comes from leaving the past behind without rejecting it, transcending outworn or oppressive forms, or daring to break with normal pleasurable expectations in order to conceive new language of desire. But so this is like the challenge of a lot of not just like feminist, but also queer theory in academia, is that how can you create pleasures that go beyond the usual gender roles? But as you discover, there is still such a thing as nature that you cannot overcome. That by definition, the way that a woman derives pleasure from her role, the way that men derive pleasure is still going to be there. You can try to create something new and experimental. And of course, it comes from Michel Foucault to create the sort of mission of creating new pleasures. But by the time you get to the 1990s, even academia, that quickly sours. And that's like, well, what are we going to do? Even nowadays, the way that people finagle over pop culture and the culture industry, even we brought up the whole like Hannah Gatsby thing with Picasso. It's like, you know, I mean, yeah, there's great female artists, of course. But it's like, you can't just destroy something and then not create something else. You can't just say Picasso is evil, but yet neglect his influence upon, you know, the modern art world from from his time onwards. It's not going to create something lasting. It's you're just left with critique. And it's like, you know, maybe Louis Cachet, maybe you're right. Maybe we just need muscle mommies. Maybe we just need a lean beef patty.
I'm firmly with Bizlet in this instance. If you're a fan of that, kindly come out of the closet.
That Bizlet tweet still goes around. Still does.
It's true. I'm sorry. Just
yeah,
spiritual homosexuality. I don't have time for it.
Oh boy, but
I'm a little unhinged this episode, and I really don't care.
Oh my god. This would be a miracle if it gets monetized. But anyways, the pleasure in looking, fascination with the human form. Do you want to take this one?
Sure. Let me go to that section. The cinema offers a number of possible pleasures. The one is scopophilia. There are instances where just looking at itself as a source of pleasure, just as in the reverse formation, there's pleasure at being looked at. Originally in 3 essays, again, we're getting this infantile sexuality here. Freud isolates scopophilia as one of the component instincts of sexuality, which exists as drives as quite independently from its erotogenic zones. At this point, he associated this looking pleasure and taking other people as objects, subjecting them to controlling and a curious gaze. His particular examples center around the voyeuristic activities of children. Again, this infantile, sorry, I'm just noticing. Their desire to see and make sure that of the private and forbidden. I'm not going to read too much of this. But, you know, there is pleasure, of course, to be looked at from gazing. And I mean...
Yeah, and she talks about the mirror stage in the next section.
Yeah. What is... what's the word I'm thinking of? I mean, what not is the pleasure of gazing in cinema than Quentin Tarantino putting his fetish on screen. Again, there's truth in this article. I mean, like, let's not kid ourselves here. Like, there are actors that will definitely call it out. And I mean, I think Tarantino is probably the most prolific one because he's just got the most obvious fetish in mankind in his movies, to a point where Brad Pitt took it when he accepted the Academy Award, thanking his co-stars. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio, Margot Robbie's feet.
Boy.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on. There's truth in this. And then there's Lacan over here on point B, you know. Lacan has described how the moment when a child recognizes its own image in the mirror is crucial for the constitution of the ego. Several aspects of this analysis are relevant here. The mirror phase occurs at a time when the child's physical ambitions outstrip his motor capability, with the result that his recognition of himself is joyous, and then in which he imagines his mirror image to be more complete, more perfect, and he experiences his own body recognition, thus overlaid with misrecognition. The image is recognized and conceived as reflected in the body of the self, but its misrecognition as the superior projects this body outside as an ideal ego, an alienated subject, which is reintrojected as an ego ideal, gives rise to the future generation and identification with others. This mirror moment predates language for the child. And I mean, the film will do this in its way, where the actor, the male actor, can be the perfect image, or the idea that every woman should be like Pamela Anderson from Baywatch, or Margot Robbie from The Wolf on Wall Street, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some innate things that are in here. Like guys want to be the superior mirror image of themselves. This is why I think literally me has got such a widespread, you know, popularization. It doesn't matter if you're some esoteric right-wing anon or just some regular guy, right? People will jokingly share literally memes, whether they're normies or not. There's the semblance of self that can be recognized in the mirror of the silver screen. And what is it? Just with some extra layers than people wanting to identify with characters in themselves. I mean, this is what makes well-written characters memorable, even if on the screen, right, we take pleasure from the violence and say Drive, when he just goes ham in the elevator or pops off with a shotgun after the botched robbery.
But also, like, when it comes to the mirror stage, when the infant sees the mirror ego reflection, then life in the other stages of development, when you get to language, slowly you contextualize the process of identifying with your own self-image and being. And it takes like a process of integrating your own self. I think that's what Lacan was getting at, you know. But what's funny is that she brings cinema into this. So at first glance, the cinema would seem to be remote from the undercover world of the surreptitious observation of an unknowing and unwilling victim. What is seen on the screen is manifestly shown, but the massive mainstream film and the conventions within which it is consciously evoked portrays a hermeneutically sealed world which unwinds magically, indifferent to the presence of the audience, producing for them a sense of separation and playing of the voyeuristic fantasy. Moreover, the extreme contrast between the darkness in the auditorium, I guess you could say this is when, you know, films are mostly watched in theaters. Brilliance of the shifting patterns of light and shapes. So film separates you into a world unto itself, right? But a film is also the moving image. So she says something that's very indicative of Bresson, and when he talks about film, about like how film reveals things that the theater cannot. Because the film can reveal time, it can reveal different location, it can pay attention to objects.
A film isn't a giant wall of academic jargon.
Yeah, well, there you go. But, you know, film can create it. Oh my God. Who said that in the chat?
Lewis Catchett, word cell onanism.
No, it's true. Like, film
it's so
reveals
true.
the world. It's like, I don't know what you people... Why you have to be Philistines? But
she just read a paragraph saying movies aren't real.
Shut up! I hope you people don't shred my book to pieces when it comes out like this.
Well, no, because it's written by Gio Panischetti, our friend.
No, but I write like this, though.
But it's you, right? It's not some woman that's telling me like movies aren't real and that it's important for me to recognize that I
wake
see
up,
myself.
Chad, touch grass.
Yeah, I'm not. You know, I'm sorry. Like, this is a 50-year-old article from some woman that I'll never meet versus my friend whose opinions and ideas that I actually value.
No, true. But I think that like it's contextualized later in the essay, as you know, like what she says is correct though, because the way that film seduces you into a world that is discontinuous from your own, but the fact that you know it's not real, but you still buy into its kayfabe, it has that seductive quality to it. Like people, like there are people, like I think it was Fisher King that said it's actually shocking the degree to which people like enact their real life on based on the films that they've seen. Like, I mean, we talk about Ryan Gosling having that effect with like the Mind Chud, right? With like the sensitive young
Mind
man, Mind
That's
Chud.
true. True.
Yeah, but the fact that like the average person, like, sets up like the average millennial, like when they're working their like wagey normie job, they think it's like The Office. But it's crazy because you know that if you were to verbalize that to the average normie, they would say, no, that's not true. But then they would enact that thing in real life. And when you like sort of reveal the magic to them, then they're like, they feel like they're shocked. They've been robbed of that pretension. And so I feel like, I know people like make fun of the whole like people that don't have an inner monologue thing. And they're like people, they misunderstand it. But it is kind of true, like when your life and your beliefs and the way that you interact with the other is mediated by popular media, there's something to that. There is something kind of like the engagement that people have to popular media is different to the engagement that our ancestors had to the work of art. Because first of all, the work of art was not blasted in our face 24/7. It was a limited thing. It was an aristocratic thing. But even people that had exposure to art in, like, for example, in cathedrals and churches, that was for a different purpose. Like, for example, Gugnon has this essay about the role of the work of art to the ancients as opposed to the modern. Again, these are things I write about in my book. But I don't know. What do you think of that, Prue? But I get your point. Like, it is true. Like, she's saying like movies aren't real, touch grass. So
Well, no, she's saying, well, it's not that. I mean, she's saying that movies aren't real, but they imprint, like, again, the Lacanian mirror stage onto grown people. And I mean, this is the case where it is now, right? Like, this article is more true, I don't think, for like right-wing guys that are like, oh, Patrick Bateman from American Psycho is literally me. I know it applies to people that like watch The Simpsons, and it applies to people that watch BoJack Horseman. It applies to people
watch
that like
the current Simpsons.
The current Simpsons, not the old stuff. I mean, these are the people that watch The Office and say that they want a relationship like Jim and Pam, despite the fact that like doesn't Jim break up like a relationship and or a marriage or whatever in order to get her back and things like that. Like, it's things like this where mainstream film neatly combines spectacle and narrative, and people want their lives to be like spectacles and narratives. And that spectacle and narrative is the pleasure that they get from watching like The Good Wife or, I guess any other run-of-the-mill modern television show. And so, but what also hurts them though is I think what's a really good example would be fucking Euphoria, right? Like that's a great example.
But it's true. It's true.
That's the bit here, right? Is that there's this like eroticism that people derive from looking at other people's lives and projecting an egotistical image of themselves onto it. And again, this is where I think that she's right. Men are bearers of the look, but at the same time, like I think we've made women a lot more like men in the last 50 years, definitely for the worse. And so what are it now? Women and men are both engaging in sort of this sort of like low T, but very weirdly hetero, but also kind of homosexual space where both of them are now gazing. Both have a male gaze. Women won't admit it, but they have their own. I mean, they are different. Yeah. They are different. But both of them share this sort of Lacanian mirror image self where they'll look at film. Women will look at things like The Good Wife. Women will look at things like Korean dramas. Women will look at things in the same way that like low-T leftist men will look at the irony behind BoJack Horseman. Men will identify with him, and the women will identify with Diane's character from that show. And it illustrates that they all have their own problems, and that this is the way that we do it. The gaze offers pleasure because unlike, Charlie Brown saying it in exasperation, they say it in sadomasochistic pleasure. They say good grief because the grief is good to them. And that's where we're at. And I think that's just the nature. This article points out a lot there.
It's like those 30-year-old roasties on TikTok that like show where they're like, I'd feel comfortable with a guy made like $500K or $130K or whatever. It's like, wow, that's, the median income is like, $45K in America. So it's yeah, the female gaze is definitely but anyway, what were you saying? Like, I can't add to what you said. It's
mean,
true. It's 100%.
that's
It's
all I had to
terrible.
say. Is
Yeah, it's
that's the
terrible.
case, right? We don't even make good buddy movies anymore. Like, there's
No.
we've reduced the male buddy comedy thing. Like, it's not it's not
Well, the
that
Ryan
long.
Gosling one was good.
Oh, the two
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what movie I'm thinking of. Like a Running Scared is a good buddy cop movie. I guess, like without, you can say that without, and I mean, I just saved you a lefty wall of text article that Walrus.
Oh boy.
But like Running Scared is a good buddy cop movie. But here, right, she's talking about like, which Haskell calls this a buddy comedy movie with like a homosexual eroticism as the central male figures carry the story on without distraction. Oh, fuck off. I'm sorry. There's nothing homosexual about Running Scared, especially when Billy Crystal is giving what's his name? Shit, Gregory Hines crap for bagging a woman, and having a good time. Like,
this is like before what BAP wrote about with like the hermeneutic of suspicion. That's like literally in the 70s they were talking about.
Maybe is this the way, right? And is this the way that like lefty feminist women look at like male buddy comedy movies? Do they watch The Nice Guys and think that like, screw up, but man who still loves his daughter is actually in love with the other private dick in the movie? Like, get real.
No, but I think like it's a natural like compulsion of women to be like, if a man rejects me, there must be something wrong with him. It's like a known. They have this egoic thing about like, if he rejects me, he must be a little bit fruity.
Like literally, this is literally that bit from South Park where they make Tweaker and what's his name, like they ship them as gay, and neither of them are gay at all. And like this is what this article is to some extent. It's just
you're way more critical than I am on this one.
Maybe because I have an instinct gut reaction to just. Maybe it's just a knee-jerk reaction to just shit on this. I don't know.
Yeah. But let me read you a part.
Go ahead.
Where she says, during its history, the cinema seems to evolve a particular illusion of reality in which this contradiction between libido and ego has found a beautifully complementary fantasy world. In reality, the fantasy world of the screen is subject to the law which produces its sexual instincts and identification, processes have a meaning within the symbolic order which articulates desire. Desire born with language allows the possibility of transcending the instinctual and the imaginary, but the point of reference continually returns to the traumatic moment of its birth, the castration complex, hence the look pleasurable and form. I think this is an illustration between the like older versions of radical feminism and the more modern versions of like sex positive feminism. Because what happens is the older one is saying that you can't, because of the super ego. This is like classic Freudian, what's he call it? Not dispersion, not displacement, sublimation, classic sublimation, where you can't enact desire in real life, but you can watch like this, like gratuitous, sexist, ultra-violent film and like enact your ego fantasy. But then of course the older feminist critique is like, well, if you're looking at it in like prawn or in film, that you're going to enact in real life, and there's some validity to it, especially with prawn, because prawn is the illusion of sexuality, as Byung-Chul Han talked about, right? But then the newer version of like sex positive feminism is actually, it's good that you have a space of desire, because now women can do this too. And so you have this like war within leftist academia. Oh my God, the Fujoshi epidemic. Yeah, so like
like they're so true.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean, Prude. It's like, what do you think of that though? What do you like the interpretation of yeah.
I think that you're right that there's a clear delineation between like male gaze bad type feminism versus like as they like to say, segs positive feminism. And so like this is into the looking glass type deal of what used to be feminism. I mean, a lot of this is still underneath the root, but
well, the feminists are returning to this now.
They are.
That media is informing and it's bad. Yeah.
This is when Catherine wrote about like the backlash to sex positivity. I don't know if she went this far, but like this is what feminism will return to. It will return to this like sex negative, male gaze bad, movies bad type deal.
I think both of them are terrible. Can't women just be normal? Can't they just be like? Can they? Here's the thing. I understand like hardcore misogyny is like not healthy for both men and women. Like, I mean, it's not healthy for men because it's like this weirdo resentment complex. But can't people, like, I know I'm sounding like an paranoid right now, but can't people just be normal? Can't people just be normal? Like, can't you just like take men and women for what they are and like be, like have some sort of a deferential character towards each other? Like, can't you just say that like certain things are bad and certain things are good? That's impossible. That's impossible, Prue. That's impossible to do nowadays. Nobody has that level of nobody has that level of nuance anymore. Go ahead, Prue. What are you laughing at?
No one has the nuance for that. That's what just killed me. No one has the nuance to say bad things are bad and good things are good. Holy shit. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Welcome to our discourse in 2023, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we're at.
Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, the garbo of this discourse is to ensure that the nuance of saying bad things are bad and good things are good is no longer possible. Welcome to the idea of nuance. Everything's got to have a little bit of that morally gray zone to ensure that, yes, you are evil no matter which way you look at it. This is how bad things are. And if it was like this 50 years ago, wake up and smell the roses.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, it seems that like radical feminism and like this sort of like ridiculous, like that one podcast version of like Manosphere Grifter, they're both designed for the opposite sex to fail each other. That's it. Like,
this is where you get, and this is why I like Bizlet's term, dissident online weirdo. Because there isn't like, yes, there's rightists and shit like that, but I mean like, there's just regular people that just hate current thing. You know, they really hate liberals more than anything else, and I don't blame them.
I just hate me neither. Yeah,
I don't have any politics. I just really hate liberals, and I'm like, I don't blame you. Like, that's far more understandable, and it's a far more normal position than like people being like, esoteric Argatha posting. Like, I get it, right? And so like, yeah, you're not going to get that. And so the system is sort of like designed to set people up for failure in this respect. And
but that's what I mean, because to like an Andrew Tate of the world, like women will always fail. To like these, to like, I don't know, the equivalent would be like these like weirdo rad femmes nowadays. Men are always going to do wrong, so it's like, what's the point? Like, you're just creating spiritual degradation by like, demonizing the opposite sex in such a way.
And again, this is something that I have to, that needs to be said.
I feel like I'm crazy even just by verbalizing it, but you're correct.
But I don't think anyone's being crazy here other than what we're reading on screen. But
no, I mean like the fact that but the fact that we have to, like, society has gone this far that we have to verbalize these.
Are you saying the left has gone insane? Fellas, breaking news. The left
has lost its marbles, Prudentialist.
It's lost its marbles. They're just right off the crazy train.
Oh.
Right to the loony bin, those lefties. But yeah, it's
you're saying the left is off its marbles, Mr. Hitchens. I love
perhaps a little bit of that old fighting spirit left from my young Trotskyite youth days, but the only way that can be solved by this is armed insurrection. That's my favorite from Don Lee. That's probably my favorite. Yes, the left has always been insane.
Can you imagine if Hitchens and Jonathan Bowden had a conversation?
Oh God.
Oh man. But you were saying,
No, I think what you said though, that like that society set both of these groups up for failure is just innately true.
Well, they've set each other up for failure, but they've also set the target of their ire for failure. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I agree 100%, because like what's the takeaway from this is a consent-based society where both sides will kind of like look at this, what we're reading here, and kind of accept some of it is true.
Yeah.
And recognize that this sort of generates a wide degree of hostility towards the opposite sex.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I mean, I don't think that's a feminist talking point. Like, I just think that there's this misandry and misogyny is so absolutely true on both sides of the spectrum of these sort of discourses
Oh yeah.
that, like, no wonder why, like, there's a bunch of, like, outside of the economic conditions, of course, like, no wonder why no one's getting along anymore. They hate the other side, the opposite sex, so much that, like, they set themselves up for, like, self-destruction and failure. Just there's like no, like, you know, you can I'll
But people have to deny their true desires though on both sides. Like it's
yeah,
funny how
they have to play a
yeah,
game. You have to play the game of how long do I hide my crazy before I can finally let it out? How long do I conceal my
yeah.
power level before I can embrace this woman and say this is the way that it is?
No, but even like the discourse around like dating and relationships and all that, like it's just I feel like saying that
It's
like for
all
example,
bad.
yeah. But the thing is like cinema and the work of art has always been a place for fantasy. And the fact that like this is like the sort of like radical feminist academic catch 22 is like, do you admit that these things are a place for fantasy and they are bad because they are destructive because they unleash these unconscious forces upon everyday normies? Or do you say that is a heroic task for the quote unquote modern liberated woman to wrestle with those energies and to create a male caricature of them? Like to create a sort of like a female LARPing male caricature. It's sort of like what, even Paglia talks about. Like, it's like, that's not the answer either. To create like a female version of Desaad, that's just going to lead to equal failure and ruin. So it's like, what are you going to do? Like, it has to be how, like, there has to be a healthy way of mediating something that is very primordial by living in an advanced civilization that does away with the sort of like primitive hunter-gatherer relations between the masculine and the feminine, or between like the sort of spiritual relations between the masculine and the feminine energies, right? Like, it's what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to mediate it? You're going to just like, I don't know, like you're going to like basically calcify the psyches of young men by giving them all these drugs by the time that they're in, not even in grade school yet. And you're just going to like create this like girl bossification of gender discourse. Like, no, that's just going to lead to even more misery and suffering. But then it's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, I feel like Freud is correct in the sense that we have never gone beyond civilization and discontents. We're always trying to find a way to sublimate what comes very naturally to us. And it's never going to happen. And in the way that, and the thing is, though, that it's not even what comes natural to us, isn't even just like horror and violence and subjugation. There's also positive things. Because if I were to say, like, oh, if we didn't have like this society, then we're going to like become like Lord of the Flies. You know who made that point? Zimbardo made that point with this ridiculous, Stanford prison experiment. Now he's like a lib talking about Trump is like the Stanford prison experiment or whatever. Like, no, that's like a lib talking point. I'm saying, like, when you detach yourself from traditional society, there still has to be a residual of what was left in the wake of that, advancement or civilization process. What's going to happen afterwards? We're still struggling with these questions. We haven't gone beyond it. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to.
I don't know either. And what makes it worse is
If I
that
had a GF, I'd feel much differently about these questions. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that's probably true.
Maybe not.
Maybe
I could
not.
still be an edgelord if I had a GF. But anyways, go ahead, Prue.
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is even you edgy women disrespecters are just. I don't even want to absolve them of fault. I don't.
No, I mean, they're partially correct as well. Obviously they're more than partially correct.
And
But
they're
just
more
that,
than fucking responsible. Sorry,
yeah, exactly.
just,
Yeah,
there's a lot of dialectical thinking is the death of romance. Yeah, that there's a big part of that.
100%. It's true, Cindy.
I wholeheartedly agree.
No, like, you can look at the truths about female nature without being like stupid about it, without like, condemning yourself to misery and bitterness.
There are innate qualities of a woman that that are in their nature that you're not going to be able to. Like if trying to deny female nature is stupid and you can't do that. The moment you do that, you've lost the entire frame of whatever you're trying to get after. And
then you end up like that masculinity grifter that got owned by Leela Rose. You know that guy with the goatee?
No.
He's got like the bun. You know that clip where like Leela Rose, the pro-life woman?
I have no idea who Leela Rose is either.
Well, no, she went on that podcast. It was like one of that one podcast with that idiot that brings on these e-girls. What's it called? Help me out in the chat. You know the podcast, the one that everyone clips. Like these clips go viral every week from TikTok. Where like so, it was Leela Rose arguing with this guy, and he's like this grug brain.
Was she on Whatever or something?
Whatever podcast, that's the one. Yeah. And so this guy, he was like hating on incels and like how you're all addicted to prawn and you're low value and break the rules podcast. No, but he was like eating on like sensitive young men. And he got ratioed for it. But he like embarrassed himself on the Whatever podcast where he's like against Leela Rose talking about like how a man shouldn't have kids or whatever because he's not high value if he has kids. Did you see that one? Oh, where did Prude go?
No, anyways, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so anyways, he was talking about like, oh, you're low value if you have kids and you're like, basically you're like giving into women if you like have a normal family. And it's like, I don't know. It's like you can sort of like black pill yourself by looking at the fundamental truths about men and women. But there's a way to like look at these insights without totally, destroying yourself and your capacity to have a normal relationship or a normal capacity for love and so forth. Like the thing is that there's things that, that cannot be overcome when it comes to the other. And the heroic task, should I say, to quote my good friend Hero, the hero pill option is to love anyways. You know what I mean? Just not just look past it, because there's sort of a, there's a certain hardness to that a man has to, possess to overcome the feminine, but to totally deny the feminine, to not to totally deny, to embrace at least some aspect of it, to, to still have a relationship and so forth. That is the hero pill. Like me and Crooner, we talked about this in our podcast. He's like, what if Elliot Rodgers chose love instead of hate? What if he became a hero to himself to overcome his inceldom? What if that were to have happened? And, I thought that was profound when Crooner said it, Prude. I don't know.
Should probably rewatch that episode.
It was like number 2 of content.
I know, he was like the horniest man alive.
I remember you said like certain tweets of his. It's like
I remembered because he reviewed one of those like animated Barbie films, and I was just like, jeez.
He said it was the most erotic experience he ever.
Yeah, and I was like, good lord.
Go and watch the E-Girl documentary. Go and watch the E-Girl. He's the only one who has done actually, Gabriel Sprock had a good E-Girl video as well. He might come on the show. But anyways, yeah. So let's skip to the part where she talks about Vertigo, and then we'll go to super chats. So in psychoanalytic terms, the female figure possesses a deeper problem. She also connotes something that looks continually circular, circles around, but disavows her lack. Yeah, so we got to talk about penis envy. Skip to
so much of that in this article.
Yeah. Hitchcock. Here we go. Vertigo. A policeman, a dominant male. You read this one, Prue. I'm getting cotton mouth.
Sure. Where are we?
This is
here
page
we go.
6 in Vertigo.
In Vertigo in particular, but also in Marnie and Rear Window. I like Rear Window a lot. The look is central to the plot, oscillating between voyeurism and fetishistic fascination. As a twist, further manipulation of the normal viewing process, in which some sense reveals that Hitchcock uses the process of identification normally associated with ideological correctness and the recognition of established morality, and shows up its perverted side. Hitchcock has never concealed his interest in voyeurism, cinematic and non-cinematic. His heroes are exemplary of the symbolic order and law. Vertigo, a policeman, a dominant male possessing money and power, Marnie, but their erotic drives leave them into compromised situations. The power of the subject and another person will sadistically or gaze voyeuristically is turned on to the woman as the object of both. Power is backed by a certain affinity of the legal right and established guilt of the woman, evoking castration. Psychoanalytically speaking, true perversion is barely concealed under a shallow mark of ideological correctness. The man is on the right side of the law, the woman is on the wrong. Hitchcock's skillful use of identification processes and liberal use of subjective camera from the point of view of the male protagonist draw the spectator deeply into his position, making them share his uneasy gaze. The audience is absorbed into a voyeuristic situation within the screen scene and diegesis which parodies his own in the cinema. In his analysis of Rear Window, Duchet takes the film as a metaphor for cinema. Jeffries is the audience. The events of his apartment blocks opposite correspond to the screen. As he watches, an erotic dimension is added to his look. The central image of the drama, his girlfriend Lisa, had been of little sexual interest to him, more or less a drag, so long she remained on the spectator side. When she crosses the barrier between his room and the block opposite, their relationship is reborn erotically.
Well, even like One Car Wife, for example, like in The Mood for Love,
don't spoil Vertigo. This movie is like 60 years old.
Bro,
this
movie's older than you.
Movie's older than both of us combined.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. What year did Vertigo come out?
1958.
My father wasn't even born. My mother was born in 59, so she wasn't even born yet. You know, I watched Vertigo with my mother. She has this thing where she's like, I don't like black and white films. I don't like older films because my father, you know, because you know the way it worked back in the day, like, you know, when you're watching TV, it's like, you know, my grandfather, my nono had the control of the, you know, the television, right? So my mother's like, I hate watching these older films, but then we were watching Vertigo and she liked it. But I can see that Vertigo is an example of this to Mulvaney's credit. Don't you find it ironic that this author's name is Mulvaney though?
Mulvey. But
Mulvey, sorry. Close enough to Mulvaney. You know, I shouldn't say this in public actually, because it's going to destroy my credibility. But you watch the Mulvaney, where like Dylan still goes by Dylan, right? I'm not misgendering, right?
You care about that?
Well, for YouTube purposes.
Oh well. Sorry, I'm definitely. This has been. I've been unhinged this episode.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but not sorry. What about the Mulvaney? Dylan, this individual still goes by Dylan Mulvaney, yes.
Okay, so you watch the video where Dylan talks about like the trolls or whatever?
No.
Oh, well, like Dylan's like, I still keep on in my faith and it's like been hard. Like, I'm not gonna say like I have sympathy, but I do feel like I don't hate this person because they're ultimately a victim of, you know, the modern world. You know what I mean? Like that the TikTok or whatever, the Twitter video about like I still have faith in God, and maybe that's what softened my heart a little.
I think I have Mulvaney as one of my muted words on Twitter.
Yeah, that's probably why I didn't watch it. But I watched that video and I did have sympathy. Exactly. Love the person, hate the sin. Like Mulvaney doesn't come off as like a bad person. Like there are much worse examples of that ilk, not to say it for YouTube, but it's just not like the fact that like the corporatocracy is like pushed this person onto everyone. It's not that like I hate this person, just that, you know, I'm sure Dylan Mulvaney seems like a good person. It's just that what's happening, the meta of the situation is profoundly disturbing. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what I'm saying right now. Maybe just
a tragic character.
That, yeah.
Maybe that's as nice as I'll be.
There you go. Just like annoying it's annoying, but like
annoying autogynephile. But sure.
I know that there's a lot of examples of ones that are much more evil than Dylan Mulvaney. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm saying. But anyways,
No, that's John. What is that awful comedian's name? John Mulaney. Oh, it's Mulaney.
yeah.
Guy who broke it off with his wife to go have kids with someone else, and yeah.
Oh
It's a
God.
disaster. Anyways, his career ended sometime around 2017. But yeah, I mean, I think that you can get all that you need from this article here in the summary that's underlined. The instinct of pleasure viewing and the erotic object in contradistinction. Contradistinction is another word that I feel like has been ruined. Ego, libido, forming identification processes act as formations mechanisms by which cinema has played on. The image of a woman as passive raw material for the active gaze of a man takes the argument a step further into the structure of representation, adding a further layer demanded by the ideology of the patriarchal order as it is worked out in its favorite cinematic form, illusionistic narrative film. The argument turns again to the psychoanalytic background is that a woman's representation signifies castration, inducing voyeuristic or fetishistic mechanisms to circumvent her threat. None of these interacting layers is intrinsic to film, but it is only in film form that they can reach a perfect and beautiful contradiction, thanks to the possibility in cinema of shifting the emphasis of the look. It's no longer just in film. I think of the e-girl. I think of the woman that can sell herself for $5.99 a month, and impotently is a form of castration, right? Like you're just impotently lusting after something that you can't have. And that's the grotesque trick of our modern semblance of voyeurism.
But here she says, like, Hitchcock's heroes are firmly in the symbolic order of authority back when Hollywood did not automatically demonize characters of authority. But the thing is, people are still talking about Dylan Mulvaney and the thing. No, I think like with Vertigo, you can say it because a lot of it is derived from the gaze of what's the woman's name? The isn't it like he sees a painting of her in like, but then like I forget, it's been a while since I watched Vertigo. But he sees the painting of her, and then she's exactly like the woman in the painting. And it very much is. It plays with the gaze of perfection. Then he slowly tries to mold his wife into this woman, like the scene where they're buying a dress, like a pantsuit dress. You know that scene? Like that's a good example. I was actually rewatching that scene because it reminded me of it, where he's like placing the symbolic order of this other woman onto his wife because they look the same, and it's So I think like you can create a feminist analysis with Vertigo, which Mulvey is doing here. I think that's out of all the Hitchcock films, I can really see it though. I think there is.
I think Rear Window would have been the most voyeuristic one, considering that the man is symbolically but literally in some instances impotent by a broken leg, left looking out the window. The girlfriend doesn't play too much of a role until she's on the other side, like you pointed out here. But yeah, just there's a lot of nuggets of truth in here, but at the same time, it also is sort of a great way to go back in time and see that even 50 years ago, so much of what gets discussed nowadays was in the Academy.
100%. Yeah. No, but that's what I mean. Like, I think, I mean, with film in general, like, because film is interesting in that, it certainly has overtaken what painting has in terms of it being a representation of the more popular manifestations of what's going on in the psyche of a civilization at that time. The fact that like film has this odd feedback loop of informing the culture, but in the same way, creating that culture, and then that culture feeds back into film. So now you have like Hollywood directors having like, useless slop that they're like whatever upteenth Marvel film is just purely for the enjoyment in the theater, like sorry, not the theater, the sort of theme park like enjoyment, to quote Scorsese, of the audience. But then again, I mean, Scorsese has done a lot of coal as well. I mean, I think like the Irishman.
Apparently, he's doing another movie about Jesus, and I'm not particularly
not a fan of that one. Yeah.
No, I mean he's doing another one outside of The Last Temptation.
Oh God.
So yeah.
Did you like The Irishman?
I have not seen it.
I only watched a bit of it. It's kind of like Cole. I don't know. It's kind of like a postmodern gangster version of like all the other films that Scorsese has done, in my opinion. But I think Obese Goth said that. He goes like, The Irishman is the ultimate midwit test because like if you like The Irishman, then it's like basically like midwit territory. It's sort
Ooh,
of like,
it's a
yeah,
filter.
it's a filter, yeah. But it was a great article though. I think it did its job. I think like the Freudian analysis of, I mean, as a Jungian, I have to think that Freud is wrong. But there is something to like sort of libidinal exchange within the film itself. When the space of cinema itself, there is a libidinalization of relations between men and women and so forth. I just think that I think like the whole castration complex thing is overbearing, and the whole like penis envy thing is, of course, I don't know. I mean, there is a validity to it, but I think that even like other feminists that came after, they would say that the penis envy thing robs women of their own subjectivity because they just want to like basically LARP as a man. But I think that we're seeing nowadays is a weird form of like perverse penis envy among a certain demographic. But you know,
Yeah, especially when there's a strange overrepresentation of a class of women that are becoming zipper chests.
oh yeah, too. There's the penis envy thing too. I mean, there's also
Oh, what were you getting at? I was totally thinking about the ongoing disaster of tomboy genocide, but
no, that too. But but the reverse penis envy of the coders and the impossible women.
oh, many such cases.
Yeah.
I have not posted that since June started. I should probably put that up on Twitter.
Oh boy. Oh my god. But yeah, this has been great. Please sneed those super chats. Sneed those super chats.
Was it that time again?
It's that time again to shill.
Is it really that time again?
I should come out with another content mining next week. Maybe I'll do the Josh the Cash one. I'll get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Because it's been like a month since I recorded with him. So what are you doing? What's coming up for you, Prude?
Well, I have a new video out, and then I'll be streaming with some friends this Sunday evening in preparation for the event later this month. And then we'll be live next week and on my channel with the Digital Archipelago, and then we'll be back to our regularly scheduled geopolitical commentary this coming week 4. And then on top of that, we will, of course, I'll be speaking at the U.S. event. I'll have a great talk lined up for you there. And I'll actually be having a BL Chilhong book for our patron book club, actually.
Whoa.
So yeah, it'll be a good time. That's what I've got going on. But I have a new video called The Spirit of the Age. So go take a look at that. Does Prude really want me to send one? I'm asking you to sneed one. It's doing the sneedful, but yeah.
What happened to the Schwab content? Well, I have to contact Schwab. He disappears for a little bit, and then we're gonna record, but then I had like a doctor's appointment. I was really pissed about that because it's like it wasn't that big of a deal. So I was like, oh man, like Schwab's hard to get, like because he's an esoteric guy. You gotta like really get him in a good position. So, but hopefully soon. I mean, I'm trying to get a one scheduled with Nightmare Vision because I believe I only have 3 episodes in the tank. I have Josh the Catch, I have my friend Goran from War Report, and I have Alexander Adams, which is a really good one. So yeah. But please need those super chats. Last call for super chats. So please give deep, give kind to the esoteric geoism, as Louis Cachet put in the chat. So, all right, moving on to the supers. I thank God that they have the star system now. So, $1 by it's fantastic. $1 by Spasticus Autisticus, our good friend. Then a sticker, $5 by Fishy Frenzy, who says saw the new Paul Schrader film, Master Gardener, has light split themes and sort of a neo-sincerity piece. Enjoyed it, but is somewhat cut. Did you see that film, Prue?
No, Master Gardener.
I heard of it. I heard
2022, starring. I don't know actually who's in it. Oh, Joel Edgerton, Sigourney Weaver, S.I. Morales, and some Quintessa Swindle. Oh boy. Oh
Oh
boy. A
boy.
meticulous horticulturalist is devoted to tending the grounds of a beautiful estate owned by a wealthy dowager. When he's told to take on her troubled great niece as an apprentice, his life is thrown into chaos as dark secrets from his past emerges. Oh, this just came out on May 19th of this year. Box office $532,000, budget $4.7 million.
Oh,
Whoo!
what a loss.
What a loss. Sounds like something I don't want to review or be interested in.
I might watch it. That sounds interesting. I like those character pieces, those indie films. So, man, maybe I should watch Master Gardener. I think I heard
Oh,
Keenan
it got
O'Connor
released
talking
in
about it.
cinemas this past week. Oh, well.
Wow.
Schrader doesn't usually recoup in the theaters. Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't remember. When's the last profitable Paul Schrader movie?
What did he direct again?
He has directed First Reformed, The Card Counter, American Gigolo, Taxi Driver. He did a movie about Mishima in 1985. The Canyons, Dog Eat Dog, Blue Collar, Affliction. That's the last movie.
He did Affliction. That was
an
an amazing film. I love Affliction.
He did Raging Bull, which I really liked.
Oh wow, he did Raging Bull.
Yeah,
man, that's crazy.
And he helped direct the Scorsese's The Last Temptation.
Whoa!
I'm just trying to think what else is of his have I seen that I liked or that I know. I don't know actually, but anyways,
Affliction was a really quality film. It was really a sad film, but it was a great one. So $5 by Corbin, our good friend, good patron Corbin, for $5 sends a super sticker. I really have to work. I promised my patrons the Discord, but I have to get going with that probably very soon. So Lou Templar, good friend, for $10. The now what question was why Augustus desperately tried to maintain the image of the Republic. Because a public that asked that is the public looking for the best bid. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially true, right? Augustus is you have to maintain the image of it. Like people have to go with what they know. I mean, this is what Napoleon did. The Napoleonic Code kind of helped centralize a very monarchical structure, but it kept the wording and spirit and image of the revolution.
Would you say it was a monarchical culture?
Oh, I mean, the laws certainly had that aspect to it.
Oh,
yeah. That's what I mean. But it maintained the semblance in the language. It was a new monarchical structure that was on top of a rhetoric and sort of this La Marseillaise type of revolutionary spirit.
Yeah, was Caesar Augustus, you mean?
No, that was Napoleon. But I mean, Augustus is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Like the Republic still had its structure. There was still a Senate. But I mean, like there was still the Rex that had to come first with these decisions.
Well, it's sort of like, yeah, it's like what Spengler talks about, the degradation of democracy will go into a form of Caesarism, which I guess nowadays you could say is a managerialism, which I talk about in my book. But even like Caesar Augustus, I feel like to weed together, like, political factions into a cohesive whole, while the people still had somewhat of a say in their own destiny. I mean, that's the best you could ever hope for. Sadly, we do not live in the world of Caesar Augustus anymore, or Napoleon. So,
never say never.
Never say. It's true. The future Napoleon is probably on.
He's probably shit posting right now.
He's probably as an anime avatar right now. So
never
he probably he grew up on 4chan. Anyways, $2 by Melon Sneed. And of course, $2 by Jay Ford. Feed. Oh my God. That's amazing.
It's a very clever joke. You may not understand it.
You have a very high IQ to understand it. Fans hang for $5. Got a bill on the stream. Thanks for the show. Thank you, Fanhaz. Hopefully I'll try to upload this sooner than the last ones onto Anchor, Spotify. So, oh my God, see Woke Dev. Can I get a $20? $20 by C Woke Dev. $20. You got two of them right there. And from Sam, $15 Canadian. Here's a Sneed. How is the stream the most enjoyable blackpilling stream, especially for millennials? Cheers. Thank you, Sam. It is the most enjoyable black pills for millennials. So
that's
finally,
why we're here.
That's why we're here. And Jay Ford for $20. See you at the event. Any questions you want to ask after your talk?
Jay Ford kind of made a meme of himself at the last event because he'd introduce himself as like, "Hi, Ford here with question appreciator," or something like that. It was very entertaining. No, I don't know. My talk, I'll kind of give a little tease out for it. It's a discussion about cataphatic politics. So there'll be a theological discussion wrapped in the theme of the talk, they're the theme of the event, which is about forging common foundations, whether or not we need to, or if we do not. So have fun with that. That's all I can say. It'll be a good discussion.
What is cataphatic?
Cataphatic is sort of the opposite of apophatic politics, or apophatic theology. So apophatic theology, you mainly see this a lot in the East, that we can define what God is by what he isn't. Although there's also cataphatic theology, wherein there is what is God by what we can affirm by him, what is said by him, and what is of him. And so cataphatic politics will be, well, we often define ourselves by what we are not. We are not the left. We are anti-progress. We are anti-Troon or whatever. What do we affirm? And this is, I think, has always been the interesting question to ask, because if you get 20 right-wingers in a room, you'll get 100 different opinions about the same subject. So it'll be a fun talk.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to look at it through that like theological distinction between negative theology and positive theology.
Well, I think it's necessary. As I said in my video yesterday, Dr. Henry Hopwood Phillips said that bad theology makes for bad realities. And we are definitely in a war over belief, and that belief in first assumptions will always predicate dogma, doctrine, and theology. And if you don't have a good theology for how you base your world around it, then you're kind of screwed. Like Christians in some instances have it easier because they do have theologies that they can affirm. I mean, I can say that I believe in one God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. But I mean, at the same time, right, like there's various denominations, there's issues of unionism, ecumenism. And then at the same time, right, like high church positions also have problems with how easy it is for the clergy to be corrupted by the state. And then at the same time, for those that aren't religious, you also have the issues of, well, if that's the case, you exist in a consent-based society and things get fucked. But we'll leave that over for the talk. And it'll be different because last year's discussion I gave was entirely impromptu. I just wrote my speech that morning on a note card and gave a 20-minute talk about, the instance for how we can bring things out of the digital into the real. And so now I actually have to write a speech. So it'll be fun.
There you go. No, I think like the distinction in politics, like you were saying about the church being corrupted by the state. I mean, people like think that orthodoxy has this unique problem of it, but I think like all churches are facing this. I mean, even the Catholic Church. I mean, well, I don't want to. You want to talk about black pills? Talk about like the state of the.
Yeah, go follow Popehead on Twitter.
Go follow. I was gonna say go follow
real fucking quick.
Oh man. But anyways, yeah. So go. That'd be pretty interesting to look at. We'll talk about what we're gonna do next week. I think we should do. I don't know what's gonna happen. The events next week.
The event is the weekend of the 23rd. So
yeah, but no, but I mean like next week's episode. Should we do Nathan Barley or maybe something else? Then we'll do Nathan Barley.
I need to watch or find where I can watch it.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
Send me the link and we can make that happen for next week.
All right. Unless something political comes up that we're gonna have to talk about, and then like with Meatball Ron. Oh, speaking of which, did you see the Florida Panthers unveiled the Pride jersey for this month?
No, I did not.
And it's like, what is Meatball Ron doing now? I hope the Golden Knights win. I hope Vegas wins, but
although
just for the fact they beat Toronto too, that's why I want them to win.
The only thing that got my political nose sniffing was Vivek Ramaswamy. He's the only like non-mainstream candidate outside of RFK Jr. that I'm listening to. Just because I like his
Hanania loves him for some reason.
Hanani endorses him for president. I think he's had him on his podcast. And so you have this like Indian guy that represents like H1B mold bug talking to this like weirdly inbred Palestinian homosexual rationalist about the need for reforming like the managerial
Hanani is
state.
gay?
I don't know if he is or not. He's a spiritual one, to say the least. Look at that face and tell me he's straight. Look at that face. Look at that face and tell me he's a heterosexual male.
Does Hanani have a professional job though besides podcasting?
I have no idea.
I think he was a statistician or something.
Probably he is the H1B mold bug. Vivek Ramaswamy is. But no, he put out this tweet today. He says, one of my favorite scientists, Blaise Pascal, said it best. If you have a hole the size of God in your heart, God doesn't fill it, something else will. That's how you get climatism, COVIDism, and transgenderism. And he's quoting James Polis because he had James Polis, like he just interviewed for the discussion. So I'm just like, what the hell is going on?
I think he'll be Trumpism with a. No, I'm kidding. No, never say that.
More like Vivek Ramaswamy. That's right. We're gonna be we'll be Morrowind posting.
He likes Morrowind.
No. Vivek is a character in Morrowind.
Oh,
I didn't know you gotta get on the Elder Scrolls lore and start shit posting. It's a good time. But yeah, that's what I meant.
Did I see Affliction? Affliction's the one with Nick Nolte, right? That's the film. Like that's one of the best films ever. But anyways, for $9.99, no, by John Carter, no FMKs saving for next Thursday. Whoa. Well, it is Fat B Word Friday, so could. You know what's funny is that Renault Fault has been posting a John Michaels recently, so. Is Vivek a false god? Look, I love the Doomer Prudjack one. I love that.
One of my IRL friends who knows me through Twitter, I've gone to church with him several times. He messaged me the other day, and he was like, what's the word? Where is it?
More like Vivek Ramaswamy.
He wants or Vivek. It's the same pronunciation. Yeah. I want to Prudjack a prude and some of the boys suffering unspeakable horrors beyond their imagination to the background theme of the Jacob Dylan classic 6th Avenue Heartache. So I might edit this one I have on screen to have that happen, because I thought that was a pretty funny grand image in my mind, in the same way I made that stupid Chet Baker Apustaya edit yesterday. Fun fact, my priest says Morrowind is the best video game ever made. It's certainly one of the best RPGs ever made. But yeah, what a grand and intoxicating innocence that this guy is going to be the president of the United States.
That's amazing. We're going to have like a based neo-reactionary president. America's going to have. I'm going to have to move to America if Vivek gets elected. So we need some geojacks to balance it out. That could be arranged.
I'm sure you have a much bigger fandom than I do. You could definitely make that happen.
I could make. Yeah, I'll see what happens.
I like the large pink frog that you had for a while. That was a good one.
Oh yeah, that was Wyram Hatcher did that one.
It was a great one.
Recently Wyram Hatcher had a falling out with our friend ZHP. But anyways, are you going to vote for Vivek next year?
No, I don't know. I mean, I got so much shit last episode when we talked about the presidential race. I mean, will I vote in the primaries? Probably, but like,
you're going to vote for Trump, right?
I mean, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the first Republic. Like, I know it's all entertainment. I know it's all kayfabe. I know it doesn't matter because on November 3rd at 3 a.m. the next day, the count will stop and things will go down. We all know how this is going to go, right? Everyone's going to be arguing over who's the best, more based Republican candidate, while none of them stops the 3 a.m. mail dumps. But anyways, I can't wait for the entertainment value. I know Pat Casey will probably stream it live and we'll have laughs and whatnot.
I'll go on Pat Casey that day.
I'll go on. Yeah, exactly. I just can't wait until we see the bar in the dump.
Puccino's.
Yeah, I know. I'm not voting for him. Let's not kid ourselves.
No, but he's a bassy red mole bug.
I don't.
You gotta vote for him. You gotta vote for him.
I'm not a neo-reactionary. Like, no.
Neither. People think I'm a neo-reactionary. It's like it's because I came in the same time that they did. I'm not like an NRX guy. I mean, I have certain NRX tendencies, but I'm not like I'm
not putting up that neo-reactionary cat meme from 2014 when he first got his first revival. You know,
Oh.
has he read
Buyback?
Evola? You
Yeah, has he
know,
read Evola? Maybe. He's
has he
probably
read The
read.
Hour of Decision?
Oh man, like I can't believe John Dave Ebert had another round of tweeting recently about Jurgen Peterson.
John David Ebert telling Jordan Peterson to go down on him is
What
not what I needed.
one of the funniest things was when Spurgerak like quote tweeted him saying, "This could all have been prevented if John Dave Ebert liked the Hour Decision by Oswald
Oswald
Spengler."
Spengler. I could so much could have been saved.
Oh my god, I feel like, oh man, I don't know what to say. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the right wing has gone insane. No, people did bring up, not in the presidential stage, but I remember like
Bannon did.
Bannon with Evola. Yeah, I mean that was the New York Times hit piece. I remember quite vividly because
He
I was
loved, Steve Bannon loves super fascist Julius Evola. Like that was the hit piece. How long has he been a pervert? Come on, bro.
Forever. What are you talking about?
This ain't new. This isn't news.
You have to realize that John David Ebert was not like a person of the right wing. Like it was only very recently that he started to like take the right more seriously.
Oh,
Even,
that's
like,
right. You are
yeah.
Wagner. You were the one that kind of put us as the post Interax advertisement in your German documentary about neo-reactionary thought.
Oh,
did you hear that?
We're in a German documentary.
Yeah, Niels put out that like German video, sort of explaining what neo-reactionary thought is to the Germans. And we're
oh my
there.
god, that'll probably get us put on a list.
Yeah, but well, I mean, the German government probably has us on a list already. I mean, both of us are on that German government Twitter hate map, so it doesn't really matter.
The guy that did it too. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's the one that did it. Although I think, I forgot that happened.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. Everyone got that email from Twitter about the German government, you know. But nothing. It's funny though. Is there a link to that German documentary?
Yeah. You can look.
Is there English subtitles?
Oh, that's a good question. Are there subtitles?
I'm not well versed in
Wagner? Yeah, my German is shit, so I'll probably understand half of it if I just listen to it audio only. But
you should have kept up with your German.
I should have, but then I moved to El Paso and it was fuck all useless.
No, you could have read Well, no, if you have like a novice, I was gonna say you could read Heidegger in the original German, but like that's a pretty arduous task if you only have like a nominal exposure to German.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
There are native German speakers that have problems, with Heidegger's language.
Trying to find.
That's why I think I believe Michael Millerman reads like he knows German, so he. Well, I'm actually. It's funny because Martin translates Old German. That's like a pretty complicated task right there. But like his Old German is even more complicated. Like you have to like really know your stuff in terms of syntax and everything. Oh my god, Fishy Fancy.
Oh, this video isn't publicly available anymore. That's why.
Someone uploaded that on Twitter and it became like a big deal, and Elon had to nuke the account.
Which one? Yes. Some guy posted the entire that
one German documentary.
That one German documentary.
I knew as someone could post videos on Twitter that was gonna be a troll. That someone was gonna. Oh god. And then Elon had to like take an optics hit, and then he like deleted that account.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time.
Biden forced pleasure graper got deleted again too. So why did I say that? Biden, never mind. One of the greatest video artists of our generation, Biden RP graper. So
is it on Odyssey? And now I'm trying to find it so I can like post it.
Oh, the German documentary?
Yeah. Because I know it got taken down on YouTube. Anyways,
why did it get taken down on YouTube?
Because the videos aren't publicly available.
No, I'm talking about the one that her friend made, not the
Oh no, I
new
know that's
one.
the one I'm referring to. Trying to find it. But anyways, yeah, it's
Why
just
why did it get taken off of YouTube? Was it that
and
edgy,
I
or was it
doubt it.
just?
But then again, German law is a whole different story.
Oh, that's probably why. That's probably why. Because Odyssey can get around it. I think Odyssey, if I recall, had problems with that German law as well about hate speech or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I come
um,
back and oh well, because the left has gone insane, Mr. Anxiety Flop, but the left has lost its models.
I think even BitChute is banned in Germany because of certain content. That's
Certain mathematical questions that you're not allowed to pose.
but that is like, yeah, I could imagine like it was an. It makes like, given the light of that law, it makes sense that like BitChute is banned. Like it's, I mean, I hate censorship, but I'm just saying like in the confines of the law, you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
yeah, it's like no wonder it's yeah. It's funny though that Odyssey's managed to keep their nose clean. It's for paying customers. That's why it's been taken. Oh, that's why. Oh,
Ah,
yeah. Thank
okay.
God that you weren't like outright censored. That's what I mean. So, thank you, outright Wagner. But this has been great. Unless anyone has any more super chats, we've hit the 3 hour mark. So,
Just another episode of the
just
Digital
another episode
Archipelago,
of the Digital
3 hour mark.
Archipelago. Yeah, and hopefully that this will be available soon on. If I'm not lazy, if I'm not distracted, I was going to say lazy. It'll be available on Spotify and well, Anchor automatically uploads it to Spotify. So I'm doing good numbers there too. So this has been
Oh, it's
great. We'll
on Anchor
see.
that does the auto upload. Well, that's
Yeah,
a
you
lot better
upload it.
than dealing with Spotify directly.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. It's way better to do it through Anchor.
Okay, well then I'll be doing that.
But if Wegner, if you can Wagner,
Just add us or something.
yeah, we'll promote it. Oh, for $2. By Melon, any thoughts on online harm bills? They suck, and the Canadian government one is totally counterintuitive. And apparently, Zuckerberg is going to test banning certain stories to Canadians in protest of this bill C-13. If I recall, is it C-13 or C-11? I
I'm
forget.
not sure.
But what do you think on online harms bills? It's not realistic. It's never going to work. How is cyberbullying real? Just turn your screen off.
Yeah,
No,
just
but
log off.
log off. Yeah, no,
That's
but
great.
I do think though that like I know it's a meme to say log off, but there is instances where if people are doxxed, it will affect your real life. The online world does affect your real life. But anyways, in terms of online harm bills, I just think that the online harm bill that isn't passed in the UK. Is there an online harm bill in
Oh,
the
yeah,
UK?
there's one that's being done there, which is
Well, they
gonna.
jailed a podcaster
And
recently.
they jailed a nationalist podcaster for 2.5
Yeah.
years while that Mizzy mongrel is on talk shows while committing crimes because he knows he's part of a protected group and that the natives of the country aren't allowed to speak their piece. So yeah,
That
I mean
that was
that's the
so
case.
funny about
It's
like
so fucked.
no, but like what did Piers Morgan think he was gonna get out of that boy, whatever? It's just like that guy. How old is he? He's not even a man. He's like what? A teenager still, right?
I don't know. He's old enough to be deported.
Oh man. No, but like stealing someone's dog in public daylight, like it's just
Walking into people's houses, their cars, walking up to strangers in the middle of the night, saying, or do you want to die today or something like that?
like an old woman like stealing her like little poodle. Like that's is that what people find funny? Like I know I'm not trying to sound like some irony left saying you're not funny, but that generally isn't like funny. That's like just stupid. It's just like it's you're putting that old woman in a a very terrible situation.
I'd like to see them try that shit here.
Oh, in America?
Yeah.
Oh my god, can you imagine what's gonna happen in America? Like, oh man, it's just no, but you know what I mean. Like the old woman was like terrified.
No, I
It's
know,
like
I know, I know.
I think like how
I'm
is this
trying really hard
person?
not to fed post-Geo, so
I know, but like how is this person out of jail and doing like interviews with Piers Morgan?
because
It's England. That's why.
it's England. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a Western white country where we're so afraid of being called racist that this is what's going to be the case.
There are cheese pizzas in Canada that have been let off after a few years. There's this one guy that used
I
to
have
go to
people
like
that are jailed without trial for protesting a bullshit election over
yeah.
than this.
No, that the totally like the election was legitimate though, right?
Of course, totally safe, totally 100%
100%.
secure. But yeah, people that were concerned about its sanctity, that have been in jail
Concerned with the
without trial.
sanctity of the yeah. There you
The
go.
sanctity of the sanctity of elections, the same way they're concerned about the sanctity of a life.
Yeah,
And they're in
that have
jail
been jailed.
without a trial. Whereas this person walks free.
There's this YouTube video essay that's been going around, but a good one though, about Mr. Spiral. This guy, they caught him, right? He was going all throughout like Thailand and Vietnam, doing unspeakable horrors to children, right? Mr. Swirl, not Mr. Spiral, Mr. Swirl. The Canadian government gave him like 2 years in prison. That's it. And they like let him off because they were like, it was in a third world country, so we can't do anything about it. And then guess what? He committed crimes in Canada and he violated his parole, and they just gave him like an extra 6 months in jail. So that's the Canadian government right there. But when it comes to like online, whatever, like then that's like the utmost concern. But whatever, who cares, right? So, but yeah, the online harms bill in the UK, I've heard it's pretty horrific. It's way worse than the recent Canadian one. Because here's the thing about the Canadian one. The Canadian one is created by terrible people and it doesn't make sense. But in terms of the way that they sold it, in terms of like promoting Canadian content, I understand that angle, right? But when it comes to like interfering with like private people doing streams on YouTube, that's ridiculous. But I do understand the need for like nations that are outside of like America and the UK and so forth that don't have as much of a sense of power in terms of media and entertainment and culture industry power. I do understand the sort of ethos of trying to promote Canadian content. I mean, a lot of the Canadian content's terrible, but when it comes to the way that this bill was structured was a disaster. And it's like these media companies like YouTube and Facebook, they don't know what to do with it. And so it's like, I get the need for promoting Canadian people. I mean, hey, maybe I could get promoted, but no, that'll never happen. But you know what I mean, Prude? It's just the way that it was handled is like most things, like all things in Trudeau's Canada, the way that it's handled is disastrous and counterintuitive. So anyways,
one last one from Melon.
One last one. Melon, the UK online harm bill for $5 is causing removal of in-game chats for what? In-game chats from games made 10 years ago. That's how granular the censorship is going to be. Granular. That's insane.
Oh man, I won't be able to in-tower somebody on War Thunder. What a disaster. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised. Like it's that bad.
That's.
I wonder how that. I seriously wonder though how that will affect people like Academic Agent and Morgoth.
Oh,
I don't know how the hell you'll manage.
Maybe they'll have to go to Ireland. Well, no, Ireland has their own.
Ireland's got it. I think Ireland has
even
one
worse.
This is bad.
No, like Scotland's even worse actually. But that's incredible. That's like the stuff I remember back in like the early, like even before the 2010s. I remember reading this stuff about like censorship in like the National Post, like how they were like warning about this, right? And everyone thought like, okay, the slippery slope or whatever. But I remember like even during Gamergate, this was the stuff that people were warning about, and it's happening. And it's like, did all of this prevent anything? It's crazy. It's genuinely disturbing because I remember explicitly like, Carl Benjamin, like Sargon talking about this stuff, that they're going to introduce these like online hate speech bills in the future and it's going to destroy everything. And lo and behold, yeah,
here we are.
Here we are, and I know it's like cold to say this point, but it's the truth. It's like, this was stuff that people were warning about back in the day, even before Gamergate, even the 2000s.
This is what leftists were even concerned about. But hey, whatever, we gotta side with power.
Maybe if they could knock off Sargon from streaming, that's
Carl the Prophet. I mean, yeah,
it's true. But I pray for all my friends in the UK.
I pray for the Anglosphere. Maybe
the Anglosphere in general. Yeah, because it's an indictment to say that the UK is worse than Canada. That's incredible.
May the Saxon begin to wake up again.
But anyways, hopefully it doesn't pass. But even the one in Canada, the new bill, I don't really see it like. Maybe it could destroy individual streamers, but the reality is that I don't know. A lot of the Canadian government is too incompetent to, I don't know.
We'll see.
Pray for their incompetency in the UK and Canada and the Anglosphere in general. And also, the reason we should focus on this is because I think that, as crazy as it sounds, we know that it will affect Americans as well. America will probably have, in a few years' time, a version of an online speech bill. So, yeah, don't as an American, don't laugh at us.
It will come under the banner of civil rights.
Exactly. And so don't laugh at people in England and in Ireland and New Zealand and in Canada, because eventually
that First Amendment don't mean shit, buddy. It will come for you.
Oh yeah.
They will come for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen.
The First Amendment hasn't meant a lot for a long time. Is there free association in America now?
Nope.
Exactly. So don't laugh at us. Don't laugh at Leafs. Don't laugh at Bongs. Don't laugh at Kiwis. Don't laugh at Aussies. It will eventually come to the shores of America. So don't laugh at Germans, Krauts. Can we still call them Krauts?
I do.
Yeah. Because it's the thing. Like, these people are good people. People in the UK, people in Germany, it's just they're being destroyed by a monoculture and a managerial state in these countries that, but yeah, but the First Amendment's good for getting rid of church prayer in schools, though.
Sure
That's right,
is.
Harry Paris, exactly. I don't want to end in a black pill note, though, because I was going to talk about how Tim Pool made the foolish mistake of calling Tom Morello a fascist, like a typical boomer. But anyways, I'll post about it on Twitter. So
what we can't end this on is our good friend Boniface Options ratioed CBS News.
Did he?
Yep.
Nice. I gotta go share that tweet in the group chat, Prude.
I will. Well, it's in the group chat.
Okay, I'll have to dig through it. So
yeah.
Anyways, see you all next week where we cover Nathan Barley. It's gonna be amazing. One of the best shows ever made. Only 6 episodes. One of the best shows in the UK. It's funny. I've actually been watching that UK comedy duo. What are they called? Mitch and Webb. They're all right. They're pretty decent. But yeah, so God bless to all our UK listeners who are probably almost in bed right now. So there you go. God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet. All that good stuff. Thank you, guys. Ending broadcast.